Space, the season premiere. These are the reviews of the Hold Up podcast. It's continued exploration to watch 3 themed films, to suss out great ones through fun conversation, to hold up, possibly, what no one has held up before. Welcome to Hold Up, a movie podcast. Our theme tonight is space, and this is our season premiere, season 2. I am your host, Davan, and with me as always, Chris Wildmine Murphy. How you doing, Murphy?
Hey,
Season 2, away we go.
the time off was much needed. I felt like we were locked in a capsule of space, going on a long journey. But I think it was worth it. I've mined some goodies.
To Neptune?
To Neptune and back we went. We watched a man destroy a moon colony for no reason. We watched IT guys go to space and survive by the skin of their teeth. And then we watched a man look for his father. I think he found
We sure
him.
did.
Yep.
did.
So it's going to be an interesting exploration into all things space, and I'm excited to have our guest with us on this episode, a returning captain, if you will, Dave Mater.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for the kind introduction. Glad to be back with you guys once again to talk about 3 more movies and see if we can find peace and tranquility and harmony out there in the outer reaches of space together.
Let's hope so. I think this will be far less contentious than our last meeting.
Political.
Yeah, well, let's fire right into it. Well, any opening thoughts on this? I'll say one thing. Here's my opening thoughts on this. So, obviously, with the intro there, and you guys know, and our listeners probably know, I'm a big Trek fan. So is Dave.
Mm-hmm.
So you would think I would run out to go see space movies whenever they make space movies because space is my jam, but I don't. And by the end of this podcast, I think we will have illustrated why. But I think the main thing I would say about that is that Star Trek is the best of all the space stuff. So like every space movie or space show I watch, it's like never as good as Star Trek, and it's usually a letdown. So, and there was a bit of that here for me. So I'm watching it and like I want to get right into the space adventures, and it's just kind of pales comparison to Star Trek. So
Yeah, but I mean, that's like, a LARPer saying they prefer Lord of the Rings over Viking mythology,
Well, I guess you have a certain, like, you have your franchise, and I guess that maybe that's sort of what you're saying colors your opinion on some of these other ones. I think that if I also love Star Trek, of course, Davan, and I do enjoy other properties in space. Like Star Trek's number one in my heart, but doesn't mean I don't enjoy the others. And I think that the one in this particular set of movies, Apollo 13, the second movie for me, was the most close to like a Star Trek feel and like the optimism and the teamwork and the problem solving and these kinds of things that make space sort of like the final frontier and really interesting and provocative. And the other two are kind of space movies, but like kind of they're kind of other things to me. Like they're more like one of these movies is a Western, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And the other is
Sheriff comes to town.
The other could even be a Western, but it's more of a a movie with a guy chasing down his daddy issues. So
yeah, that's what it is. It's I got a lot to say about that movie, but,
right.
but that's in theater 3. So,
but in terms of like the theme of space, like I was sort of like I was not always like in sort of space mode, although there's always like these scenes in these movies that remind us, like, because people are dying or their heads are exploding, decompression in space, very brutal, very dangerous to be in space. So there's always like this fear and intensity to these movies that I really enjoyed as well.
Mm-hmm. The thing for me, okay, so I love Star Trek as well, obviously. I enjoy its ideal portrayal of what space exploration can be. I enjoyed all 3 of these movies for various reasons. One of them being with Outlander, this is the most probable likely outcome of
Outland.
what SpaceX or Outland. Yeah, I keep
Not to be
calling it
confused with
Outland.
Outlander.
Yeah.
I know. Outland. I that is the most obvious, and I think outcome of what human space exploration will become. Some sort of mining operation that just kind of is like grimy and gritty. Then obviously I loved Apollo 13 again, like Dave said, for the team aspect, and it had that Star Trek spirit of like people coming together, and it was like interesting if they just had a whole ship up there and they were all together, it would go so much smoother. But they're separated by technology in the 60s. And then the last one was more or less, I enjoyed it because of the exploration of what space travel can really do to the solo psyche, and where it went with that. And like if you go that far, sure, but there's no guarantee you're not going to go crazy, because it's probably a fairly realistic, to a degree, exploration of extended space exploration. So I enjoyed those aspects of these films, and I don't really have a lot of bad thoughts about them in general. So
Well,
I'm looking forward to breaking them down.
I
And also,
disagree
what
with you
better way
guys
to
on.
start October? What better way to start the spooky month than with possibly what I could consider the scariest thing, space.
Oh, I thought you were saying we're starting the cold month with the coldness of space.
He's kind of saying that, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's
But I disagree with you guys in one regard. I think Ad Astra is probably actually the most like a Star Trek episode. It's basically just like all good things. Like it's just
Ad Astra
Yeah.
it would be a very
Kind of,
bad
like,
Star Trek
rather-
episode
rather-
if it was. To me, like
no. Is it all good things? Yeah. Like, what's the one where Q shows Picard, takes him back to his
Tapestry.
childhood? Yes,
Yeah, that
Tapestry.
sounds
It's
like
like
Tapestry,
Tapestry.
yeah.
It's like Tapestry. But rather than like chasing his like own issues, he's chasing his daddy issues, his own like career issues. It's the same thing.
I'm sure there's like other movies with the same basic plot of a guy chasing down his father's legend, and he's sort of, but it happens to be set on the backdrop of outer space, and how like I don't know, it's kind of a futuristic look of what could happen with just human conflict, basically going into the stars as well in that movie. But I'm getting ahead of myself, but
Yeah. And speaking of Star Trek, I wish like Nick Meyer or something had directed Apollo 13, because it's more boring than it needed to be.
Ron Howard, that was like that's one of his first directorial movies.
Yeah, Ron Howard's kind of in that camp with like Rob Reiner and stuff, where they can make good movies,
favorites.
But they can make some boring movies sometimes, and like make things more boring than they need to be. Like, I find
they're not all about the cheap thrills. They're going for the drama.
No.
And the emotions.
They're going for like a certain, like they have this very nostalgic view of like the 50s. Like I think they both do, and they kind of go for that feel with everything. Like the first half, until they say, "Well, I'm getting ahead of myself with Apollo 13," but until they say the words, "Houston, we have a problem," it's a really boring movie. But then it gets good.
Well, I was pretty engaged just because Tom Hanks and well, I am getting ahead of myself. In general,
a lot of star power. They throw the star
Before
power.
we launch off to the later stages of this episode,
you're right.
Theater
one.
Let's get back to the launching base and get into Theater One, shall we?
All right. Theater one.
Outland
from 1981, starring Sean Connery, Peter Boyle, Francis Sternhagen. I'm going to say them all like Sean Connery. Francis Sternhagen and James Seeking. Directed by Peter Hyams.
With the Jerry Goldsmith score.
Mm-hmm. There's good things about this movie. I mean, this movie was actually the first DVD I ever bought. When DVDs became a thing, it was in one of the cheap DVD bins. I'm like, all right, I just got like a DVD player or something. Yeah, it was one of those terrible DVD players. But
I remember seeing the like cover art like Video Quest often, and I thought we might have rented it and watched it, but on watching it, I'm like, I don't think I've actually seen this movie. And I was, I wasn't. It's a Western that
For a Western, I like it.
Yeah, it's a space Western. Apparently, when they were actually were making this film, I didn't write this down as one of my morsels, but it was, I guess, originally meant to be like a Western film, but Alien was so popular, they're like, well, let's put this in space. So they came up with the whole like Jupiter and all that stuff. And I'm like,
I think Sean Connery works better in a space Western than a Western.
Yeah.
Maybe like
You think you want to see him walking into some Western town? Hey, everybody, I'm the sheriff.
Yeah. Like this movie, okay. Like I watched these movies in reverse, so I watched this one last, and I thought it was good. I think I felt like I ended on a high note with this movie, although this movie is very dated. This movie feels in some parts like it's a 1981 movie, like which is sort of this like transition period between the 70s and 80s style of movie making. So in some ways it's like I'm like, oh, okay, I can get right into this movie, but other times I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of another time. But as Western in space, I think it works pretty well. I think that the compared to Logan's Run, which we watched when we were doing like the apocalyptic movies or whatever, the Jerry Goldsmith score in this I think works a lot better than his did in that movie. And I think that this was I think an interesting character story, human story about a guy who just wants to prove that he's a good guy, but it could have been told in any setting, right? But this happens to have people their heads are blowing up and decompression and other
I did
things.
like the decompression scenes and stuff like that. I was like, how many ways are people going to die by decompression in this scene? Turns out a lot. And the other ways were not by direct decompression, but by gunshots and or gunshots causing decompression. So I was like, okay, cool.
All right, fire it up, Murphy.
Oh yeah, the old trailer. Yeah, let's crack that open. Launch off. Oh wait, no, that's a slide. Hang on. Whoops. It's been a minute. Forgive me.
In a mining town on the second moon of Jupiter, something deadly is happening.
Heroin.
Pretty soon they'll see that this is just like every other mining town. I work these people hard, and I let them play hard. There's never much trouble. We're all professionals.
Greasy.
I'm sure we are. We've only been here 2 weeks. It'll get better, I promise.
I got nothing more on that incident in the mine yesterday. It looks like some guy just went wacko.
It happens here.
How often?
I don't know. It just happens here.
Why?
I'm not a psychiatrist. I can't tell you why. Some people just can't take it here after a while.
What's that guy think he's doing?
No way it could have been homicide. Had to have been a suicide.
28.
Yeah, I mean that was the most obvious suicide in the world of suicides.
How do you know? How do you know?
How do you know?
He had to open and lock like
How do you know it's suicide?
How do you know? What are you talking about?
They just wanted a reason to have Sean Connery say suicide.
You would get suicide to
Something's there, isn't it?
Maybe.
Frances Sternhagen was awesome.
I want you to know what you're meddling.
She's a real interesting character, yeah.
Dealing with grown-ups here.
Bingo.
Marshall,
Bingo.
you're dead.
that whole scene.
They're showing us the whole movie.
I know they really are.
Wouldn't stick around.
But not in a good way.
That's why they sent you here.
Maybe they made a mistake.
Yeah, it's true. This is a really kind of poorly edited trailer.
It even gives away that deputy there is going to betray him and attack him, right?
It's all super out of sequence. Like, it's very confusing.
They would never make a trailer like that now.
The ultimate enemy is still man.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, the trailer, I don't think is as good as the movie.
No, I don't think so either.
No, I mean the movie was barely good on its own. To be fair, like,
well, let's take it through it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Let's just get into this.
All right.
So, Old Outland, 1981, is a sci-fi thriller film set in the distant future of the 2100s, where Federal Marshal William T. O'Neill, played by Sean Connery, is assigned to a one-year tour of duty at the Con-Am 27, a titanium ore mining outpost on Jupiter's volcanic moon, Io.
Okay, I have a problem. In that trailer, they said they're on the second moon of Jupiter, but this just says they're on Io, which is in fact the first moon of Jupiter. The second moon of Jupiter being Europa, and the third being Ganymede, and then Callisto. So I got a problem right away.
Big goof.
But yeah.
Well, I mean, you gotta be impressed the fact that they got the rings or whatever, or apparently those were just discovered a few years prior to this film being made, so they ended up like putting that in.
This movie only comes 10 years after the events of Apollo 13, and we saw in that movie that people had lost interest in space travel at that point after the moon landing. So by this point, you could make anything up for them with these moons.
It's true.
Nobody was going to go. But I did think that this opening was very slow with all the computer captions and in general, just watching like the computer screens in the movie. But I guess back then it was really new seeing like something typed out on the screen, I guess. So
yeah.
I love all the old high tech scenes in these old movies though, where it's always just somebody typing on a keyboard and waiting for the little green text to come back, and that's like their big high tech communication scene.
They're like, watch. They're chatting over the typewriter.
They're chatting in almost real time with like letters and numbers. It's amazing.
Wow. It was.
So this mining colony is located 275,000 miles from Jupiter's gas surface. It is a challenging and dangerous place to work due to its harsh conditions, yada yada. These guys are like mining, and this one dude ends up going mad crazy and imagines spiders. And I thought somebody cut his air tube. Apparently he cuts his own air tube.
Yeah, he cuts his own air tube.
Mm-hmm.
But I swear I saw like a yellow jacket reach from. I don't know. I was expecting this to be some sort of like murder mystery thing, and it did not go that way quickly.
Nope.
Yeah, like these scenes were like I guess they were kind of like it's kind of like shock horror, I guess, is how you would sort of put it. It's not traditional horror. So, but it's meant to be sort of gruesome and brutal.
Like he opened us and he basically his head exploded. Did they show like that crazy scene where like and then he like falls and you get all these like projected sort of space falling scenes. Anyway, the conditions on this place is becoming challenging because there's a deadly drug known as polydichloric euthamol. And it's discovered in the miners' bloodstreams. It basically turns out to be like this amphetamine-like substance. It just basically allows them.
Look, they like to have fun on a Friday night. They work hard, but they like to have some fun. That's all it is. Yeah. That's all it is. No need for Sean Connery.
Sean Connery's the new sheriff in town. His wife and kid. His wife doesn't seem to like it. And he says, It's been 2 weeks. Give it a chance. And then
common theme
about,
through these 3 movies
a
is
month.
like when you're in space, you start to miss your family because you're far away from everything. That's a common theme.
I think, and you'll miss Earth. I think is also
Yeah.
a theme, right?
Mhm.
Is that like space is kind of lonely and sad.
It sucks unless you have
sucks.
an Enterprise D. It's
Yeah.
pretty terrible.
It's trying to kill you all the time. It's it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so yeah, basically you just sort of like get the run that this whole mining company is just like desolate. Nobody's here for their health. They're all here for money. I hope they're getting paid well. And they're just here to mine and, get high and do the local sex trade workers that happen to be, living on the mine as well. As the host, the manager of the place likes to say, they're very clean.
Yeah.
So anyway, all this leads to Sean Connery meeting, the doctor that's played by Frances Sternhagen, which I loved. Her name is actually Dr. Lazarus. I thought that was a great name for a doctor.
I really enjoyed her character too. Like, has she ever been in anything else I've seen? I couldn't really place her as somebody I knew, but
Yeah,
I looked
I
her up
can't
and she's been in
say-
tons of stuff, but nothing that like jumps out is like, oh, I know her from that. But she was really good in this. Her and Sean Connery have a good dynamic, although he does threaten to beat the shit out of her like early
Well, yeah,
on.
actually, so
That's
this
just Sean Connery.
That's
okay.
Sean-
So hang on. All right,
Last word.
There's context to that scene, and it was actually kind of the scene I picked as my favorite because it kind of made me laugh. Is she was saying earlier, like, take some aspirin or whatever, that's a doctor's joke. And then I didn't get the whole thing because like time hikes, but this led to what was my favorite scene
It
in
happens here.
the episode or movie.
I don't know. It just happens here.
Why?
I'm not a psychiatrist. I can't tell you why. Some people just can't take it here after a while.
Did you do autopsies?
No.
Why not?
In the first place, the company wanted the bodies shipped out quickly. In the second place, when a person exposes himself to zero-pressure atmosphere, there isn't a whole lot left to inspect. In the third place, you're becoming a nuisance.
Yes, I know. I would like a report of all of these incidents that have happened during the past 6 months. I'd like it really soon, or I might just kick your nasty ass all over this room. That's a Marshall.
It's a Marshall joke because it was a doctor joke before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like some good play. She gives off like MASH doctor vibes, like I'm watching an episode of MASH and it's like I forget her name. She was in the show, the one with the blonde hair. Regardless, anyway, so yeah, the whole mining colony's administrator Mark Shepard, played by Peter Doyle, is secretly running this drug ring, and the corrupt Marshal Montone, played by James B. Sicking, one table for Sicking, is complicit in this operation as it increases production and keeps the corporate owners consolidated, amalgamated, satisfied. What a just a pretentious business name. Consolidated, amalgamated. Con-Am.
Con-Am.
Yeah, Con-Am.
Con-Am,
So they're satisfied with, the operation. They're making all of their means, their money through these guys who are just like cracked out. There's this whole scene with this dude and the knife. He's threatening to kill the girl, and Sean Connery's attempting to defuse it, but ultimately the guy, like the crooked
his
sheriff,
deputy
just kills him. His
yeah,
deputy
he's like
just
sheriff, but who's trying to cover it up, like because he knows this guy is overdosing or whatever on the drug, going psychotic from it.
Yeah.
I love his way of diffusing it, though. He says, "Look, I am coming in there.
Yeah,
But
I
if
am coming in.
hurt
You know
that
that.
girl, I'm going to come in there and I'm going to kill you.
If you right,
And if you don't, we'll just talk."
Yeah.
That's his way of diffusing it.
like he tries his best, but he also does send his partner around the other way, and his partner
Yeah.
kills him. Yeah, and he's trying, and then his wife leaves him, and like there's that, but he's trying to do his job here, and we see that the boss guy's kind of a jerk, right off the bat. He's hostile towards him right from the beginning. So I was with Sean Connery for most of this. I was like sort of, and this doctor character really pulls you in. I feel, she's
the whole analyzing of the drug scene I thought was ridiculous because they're literally just looking at like a bar graph and like a sine wave, and they're just
whatever.
like,
no,
this is a chemical molecule.
No, man, it's just same within Medicine Man, another great Sean Connery movie. That's a gas chromatograph, and that's what it looks like. They're peaks. So they're looking at the different peaks, and based on those, she can tell what the chemical makeup is.
I took her word for it.
Gas chromatograph.
Oh yeah, the sex club. Can we talk about that? With like all the hard like dry humping, what was going on, whatever.
It was just a whole lot of how can you put it? Dirty, like cantina vibes, but with only lit by two lasers and tables. Like the overhead lasers were the big main attractions to give it that space vibe, and then everything else was underlit with tables. But I'm not gonna lie, I liked the lighting in this movie. Like, I thought it was really gorgeous, so I was enjoying every like scene that they were throwing at me. I was like, I'm down with this cinematography.
They basically only wanted to build like this one big set for the whole movie, right? And so they
had a couple different spots, but yeah, I think this is the biggest one that they would go back to. And also, like, I don't know if I got it in the screenshots, but there's a couple times where he goes through the cantina, and there's a couple doors, and it's like the swinging doors, so it really emphasizes the Western, like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like this could have been on a space station. It didn't really matter, right? Like this could have been set almost in any century. It feels like a space movie, but it also feels like just a classic Western. This one lone cop trying to sort of find himself and his soul and find justice, and sort of taking down the evil establishment.
So basically, as O'Neill starts getting closer to finding all of the crooked corners of this mining operation, he ends up having a little conversation with his deputy, which turns out to be both of your gentlemen's favorite scene in this film.
Gonna tell me about it?
Tell you about what?
Shepard.
What about him?
How deep are you in?
Not too deep. I'm paid to look the other way.
I get it. You don't do anything bad, you just don't do anything good, right? I'm gonna bust Shepard.
Are you serious?
Yes.
This is no place for heroes. You try to bust him, you're messing with more than you think. You're talking about the general manager. He's a real hotshot with a company.
That's not the scene I meant, though. But I do like that scene as well. I was talking about the scene where he's talking to the doctor in the squash court later on. Like when they're sitting down and they're waiting for the assassins to come, basically, and she's like, "Why are you doing this?"
You mean that scene, right?
Yeah, that's the one I meant. But they're both good. This whole movie too, like Sean Connery as the cop, it has that felt like the Untouchables, his character in that, where he's like, they come with a knife, you come back with a gun. That's the Chicago way. And I was just like, he's just a cop trying to take down the crooked system, Al Capone, and all this kind of stuff. I was into it, but he's like a younger Sean Connery. Like in that in Untouchables, he feels like this older guy. In this, he's like middle-aged more, and so it's kind of like not quite James Bond Sean Connery, but it's not quite Indiana Jones's dad Sean Connery either. So
I think it was my favorite scene because one, I think it makes sense for squash to become a more popular sport in space because all you need is a tiny room. And so I thought that was interesting because that makes sense.
The golf too that they have,
and it also reminds me of like Janeway and 7 of 9 playing Velocity and like having arguments and stuff. It was very much like that scene from Voyager, so I thought that was pretty cool too. And I always remembered those because I watched this a long time ago. The squash scenes, still like him. He's just like, keep taking your money. Keep taking your money.
You
and,
keep. He's like, you can take me down. He's like, I don't want you. I want to take down whatever his name
Yeah.
was, Shepard.
I'm gonna bust Shepard.
I'm gonna bust Shepard. You come back with a gun. You come back with a knife. Chicago way.
Yeah, so basically O'Neill's basically getting the help with help of Dr. Lazarus. They start investigating the deaths and drug distribution. They uncover the drug ring, but when Shepard informs his corporate contact about O'Neill's interference, the company sends hitmen to eliminate him. And then the film starts taking like a high noon scenario as O'Neill waits for the assassins to arrive, with most of the colony's inhabitants just kind of too fearful to help him. You know, he's like, anyone want to help? And they're just like, yeah, no, I'm good.
Did you guys buy this, that nobody was willing to help him? Not even his own cops?
Yes, I would buy that. Because like,
well, he told his partner not to.
Like, I kept thinking, like, there's no way his character is going to survive this story, right? Like, there's no way he's going to live to the end. Somehow he's going to end up dying, right? But no, he gets out and he goes home.
Yeah.
You know, it's a happy ending, sort of, right? So he
rides back out of town, rides into town,
into the sunset, yeah. Like, yeah. And to meet up with his wife and kid, who are, you know, already ahead in the, you know, so. Yeah, this is the scene that I really liked, where he was like, they sent me here because they thought I would probably go along with this, and I want to prove that I'm not what they thought. You can't predict. It's also at individuality and choice and choosing to, you know, do something different, you know, not what people expect of you, and do the right thing. And so I like that sort of underlying just theme of the movie, and what and sort of what the result that they try to present here, right? Because it's not just a tragedy, you know, it's like a redemption.
He's trying to redeem his personal character. Right? People think nothing of him. That's why they sent him to friggin' Jupiter. He's like, well, maybe, you know what, shouldn't be sent to friggin' Jupiter.
Maybe not, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? But even the boss guy, the villain, he's like, they would have sent you here because you're like, you're not like the cream of the crop, you know? You're like, something's up with you. We never really get the backstory.
We don't get that. But there's definitely like a dark backstory, or at least like a bunch of failures or something. But
yeah, an insinuation.
Like there's a handful of like decent sort of sorry.
Moving on.
I found it interesting. Oh, yeah, that's what happened. Cool. Sorry, my headset disconnected.
Oh, yeah, I thought I heard myself echo. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There it is. Hello!
Hello there.
What the fuck is happening right now?
I don't know.
Is anybody there?
I am.
This is fun playing Echoes through Murphy.
Echo.
Jesus Christ.
Come on, Murphy. Pull it together.
Yeah.
I didn't charge my fucking earbuds.
Oh, that's why you can plug them in.
Anyway, as I was saying, there was a whole scene where, you know, these assassins are arriving to the colony, and you get this scene where they join, they arrive early, it's really high tense, and it seems like an army of 50 of them walk off the ship, and then it just turns out to be these two assholes.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
These are the best.
Okay.
They're
and
the
then
best.
it turns into
They're the
Sean
best.
Connery dispatching these two assholes.
There's like the one, like everyone in this movie has trucker hats. There's the guy with the red trucker hat. There's the guy with like the Jeffrey Dahmer glasses. And they kind of go around with their little baggies of like assassin rifles. Not once does Peter Boyle's character try to kill Sean Connery himself, or send. I guess he tries to get one of his goons to do it at one point, but one of the criminals he had employed. But he was out of the picture. So because everyone gets killed. So I was just like, I was expecting more teeth from that, but once these two guys go, and then it's like the cop, his other deputy, his second deputy, who betrays him, which we kind of see coming, you know. So I don't know. Like the doctor ends up helping to save the day. Oh, Murphy's gone. He's working on his thing, and then you know, there's a lot of action.
I can move us through.
But
Yeah.
really this movie could have been like half an hour shorter.
Yeah. A lot of the scenes were longer than they needed to be. Like even the scene with like the crazy guy, like they seemed like they were standing outside his door for like a couple minutes before they did anything.
Yeah, that's even one of the more interesting scenes. But there's just a lot of like time. Like there's this countdown for like these assassins to show up on the shuttle. You know, it's like 50 hours. You want to get drunk? Sure. Like there's just a lot of them sort of waiting for things to happen. And then
there he is waiting.
Yeah, there's the guy with the red hat. It's a lot of shotguns in this movie.
Yep. Very Western, I guess. Well, no, not quite Western, I guess.
Well, yeah, it was just like it doesn't make a lot of sense in space.
Okay.
No.
Sorry. You want to puncture the hull.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to do that. There's our good doctor.
Yeah, she makes it through the movie too.
Yep.
And it's not a romance between them too, which I liked. It was just like they were just friends.
Yeah, exactly. There wasn't time for that.
She wasn't young.
And he was married.
Sean Connery.
Yeah. All right, go. You can take over the slides there, Murphy. I was just flipping through while you were gone.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys were saying while I disappeared there, but basically, yeah, the Sean Connery takes out these assassins through various decompressive ways. Ruins the entire greenhouse supply for this space station. Okay.
Well, technically, the bad guy does it.
Yeah, but I mean, he sort of like sets him off. You know, he leads him in the trap. He's like, if I throw this, that'll distract him, and he'll shoot it at me, and then destroy all of the food supply for these people, all in an effort to capture this man. Kills these two assassins, gets through the process, walks up to the manager, and then just like punches him in the face. And he's like, says fuck it, and then walks away. And then he writes a letter. He's like, you know,
Job done.
To my dear Neil, Carol, I'm on my way home. Keep the ticket warm. Kisses. Job done. It's like
kisses, love, bye bye.
Yeah,
See you in a year.
Killed the assassins.
And I'm sorry, but after watching that, I was like, sorry, sir. What job was done? Who came to justice?
Yeah.
If I'm not correct, you just killed multiple people on this station, destroyed a food supply. In fact, the moment you came onto the ship, chaos happened, and well, maybe not the moment, but things were going down. But still, all the same, you are not only did he killed this food supply, he shut down the drug supply. Now all of these people, as the doctor said earlier in their film, are going to go through mad withdrawal, and we've seen the effects of the withdrawal of this mega drug.
It's not good. Not a good scene.
This was the wildest horror film I ever watched, and Sean Connery is the most unexpected slasher I ever seen.
Well, it's pretty funny because he just walks in, destabilizes a community, and then leaves. It's like it's a total dereliction of duty. Like
who took over after he was gone? Like I wasn't
the
even
job
clear
is
on.
not done.
The manager just got a concussion and he wakes up and continues his business. He's out a couple lackeys. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I wasn't. I found that the punch was sort of like lazy, and I thought like you had time in this movie to like have him arrested and like show him brought to justice or something like that. But they really rushed the ending, and again, I was like shocked he lives. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess he gets to go off and write this letter on the screen. Like the direction in this movie was like the overuse of like the computer typing. I thought was just a choice that is
very 70s.
Yeah, but it's 1981, right? So it's even a relic of that point. Yeah. So it was a movie.
Which performance would you hold up? For me, it's Frances Sternhagen, the doctor. She was good.
For me, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say Sternhagen too. She held it together. I mean, Connor is doing a right job, but the one performance that did not hold up like whatsoever was the damn kid. The kid.
No, he was the worst.
The worst
kid.
Worst kid I've ever seen in a movie. Like I've got braces and just like completely oblivious to like life, it seems. I don't know, dude.
That was kind of the point, that he's never been to Earth, so he's like this like sort of really sad case of a kid who's just like, what's happening, Dad? You know, was the scene where he had to talk to him over like the computer monitor, like over the. I was just like, this is painful. Like Sean Connery is trying to act himself out of the scene, but he knows he's working with nothing.
One word is to a video recording.
Yeah, but I would hold up Sean Connery as a performance.
Sean Connery probably kicked that kid after the cameras turned off.
He threatened to punch him earlier on. He's just learning about teeth. He's like, you'll be missing a few in a second if you don't stop it.
Yeah, I've been backhanded by a Scotsman.
Yeah, I'll backhand you right now. Try to give me the last word. So
the setting aesthetic. I mean, I like it. I like these kind of old, dirty looking, like kind of like Alien. These dirty mining kind of space movies. They all look kind of gritty but real, and
I liked the bunks, like all of like the barracks, showing how like close quarters they were. They just have like a bed, and then they can like kind of pull curtains. But there's almost like Sean Connery has like his own place, but most of the workers are living very poorly. Like, and they're apparently being paid well, but it's very harsh work. Not a luxury. Everyone says there it's a hell. Like nobody wants to be there unless they have to be.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like people are doing short terms of work by any means. And I mean, yeah, I loved the design of everything from shot to shot. I mean, some of the outside space shots could have used a bit of smoothing, bit of work maybe. The graphic design was weird. I did like the font and stuff, but yeah, it's the type of movie I enjoy the look of, but it was a lot of... It's like going to a restaurant and you want to pick this thing and the image looks good, but what you get is kind of like not what that is. That's what this movie felt like, because it was so, how do you put it? Empty. It felt empty by the end.
But you know what else is empty, Murphy? My tummy.
So you want some movie morsels. Well, movie morsels for Outland 1981. We have Sean Connery losing a major extended cameo role in Chariots of Fire from 1981 because this movie went over schedule. As I kind of did mention earlier, I guess I did put this movie morsel in. The script was originally intended to be a set in a Western period, but writer-director Peter Hyams decided to move it to outer space due to the influence of Alien from 1979. The original title was Io, but Hyams was persuaded to change the title by an executive from the Lad Company following a demonstration on random people, which showed that many would read the title as number 10 instead. Which this movie is not. It is not a 10 out of 10. The first movie to use the Introvision front projection process, which allowed an actor, actress, or other live action element to be sandwiched by a projected background and foreground element all in the same shot. Throughout the movie, Sean Connery's character name patch on his uniform changes spelling from O'Neill to O'Neill. The I and E would keep switching. Gene Hackman, James Brolin, and Clint Eastwood were considered for the role of Marshal William T. O'Neill.
Oh, they made the right choice.
Yeah.
The role of Dr. Lazarus was first offered to Colleen Dewhurst, who I'm not too familiar with. This film is centered around the fictional synthetic and amphetamine drug polydichloric euthamol. In the 1991 film Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the words polychloric euthamol are seen on small yellow barrels of explosives. So that means these people were just doing drugs with explosives. And yeah, final one. Over the years, fans have formulated a theory that this film could very well be set in the same universe as Alien due to many similarities, both represented by Alan Ladd Jr., who greenlit Alien as president of the 20th Century Fox and Outland as head of the Ladd Company, and scored by Jerry Goldsmith. 9 department heads involved in production design worked in both movies. Each movie features a huge conglomerate that deals in interstellar mining and transport, is colloquially known as the Company, and operates with with little regard to the safety or well-being of its employees. Both movies feature a very similar production design that presents a used future where structures and technology don't look state-of-the-art but worn out and visibly aged. Both movies have a protagonist who uncovers a company conspiracy, after which attempts are made to silence them. They are finally left defending themselves completely on their own. Neither movie is set in a specific year, although Alien was retroactively set in 2122, so they could take place in the same time frame. Lastly, the character Kane in Outland could be a homage to Kane, John Hurt from Alien. Cinematography by Stephen Goldblatt, edited by Stuart Baird, music by Jerry Goldsmith, release date 22 of May 1981, running time of 109 minutes with a budget of $18 million estimated and a box office of $17 to $20 million.
What was the budget?
Roughly $18 million estimated.
So this was kind of a flop then, right? It sounds like
this was a flop. No money was made. People were sad.
I found it in the cheap bin.
it was like hard to find on rental. I had to the only you could rent it for or buy it on most streaming platforms. It wasn't like in any packaged bundles that I saw. So it was kind of an interesting forgotten movie. I was told that this was a good science fiction space movie worth seeing, and I'm not sad I saw this movie.
No,
but would I rewatch it?
Rewatchability.
I don't know. Maybe.
I have more than a few times.
I think I would only rewatch this if I wanted to study or get examples for imagery. If I wanted to produce my own space something, I would probably jump back to this movie to be like, I like that shot. I liked how they did that. I might borrow this, stuff like that. Would I watch it at a leisure though? I don't think so. I'm not a big Sean Connery film fan. There's not a lot of films he's in that I'm big on. Which is which is funny. I've seen a lot of films he's in, so it's just every time it's well, there's Sean Connery again. It's just he has this inability to portray a character that I see beyond Sean Connery.
He's a movie star. This is a big movie, it's meant to sort of just be, have fun with it.
Does it hold up?
No.
I'm on the border here. It's
Me too.
It's sort of yes and no. It's definitely dated. But it's sort of if you could take out a few, if you could edit this down, if you were to retroactively put in good special effects and pick up the pace of the runtime of this movie.
Third act. Third act, but at least the ending.
The ending, the fight with the two guys in the spacesuits, it is not great. So I would say I don't know how you could fix that part, but I say this
assimilate this.
But just the people talking to each other, the stuff that was just the acting, I thought it was fine. So
we kind of skipped over this, but I did really like the prison where they caught the guy and they put him in the 0G space suit and he's just stuck in a 0G prison and they're like, have fun sleeping in that all night. I'll come talk to you in the morning. Nobody touch him.
Yeah, make sure no one kills him, and then he's dully dead.
Yeah, the next morning his line's cut and the blood's dripping up. I was like, that was really well done. I wish that whole scene could have been played out more. I wish we could have gotten him being like, I'll tell you whatever you want, and then they killed him or something. That would have been great. But that's where the movie started also falling apart for me, because he immediately knows the one person he told not to let anyone near has just let people near and killed the guys. So he starts you can't trust him, and I think he still goes along with it for a bit. I don't know. It kind of falls apart. But at the end of the day, he just destroys this whole colony and fucks the day, and then
he saves them.
Job
he
done.
saves
the day.
He takes a corrupt system. He's looking for justice.
He didn't take down a corrupt system. He interrupted a drug supply. He destroyed a food supply. He killed 2 assassins, and he got several other people killed for meddling.
That's the Chicago way. That's how you do it.
It's the Connery way. So
I'm gonna say it does hold up because look, as far as westerns go, it's probably one of my favorite.
It's a fun space western. I'll give it that. There are fun moments, and there are moments that look cool, and like the exploding heads are cool. There are moments that are cool, but like it's at the core a very empty movie, just getting to these like really cool moments, and then it just at the end there's no. It's like, what is that? What? There's no justice. There's no resolution. There's just Sean Connery coming in to fuck up this colony and saying good job, and that's stuck in my craw too much for me to say it holds up.
Here's
like he just needed a plus on his resume. He just needed like one thing, like a couple hours of charity, community service or something. He's just like, and they didn't give a shit anymore. He's just like, all right.
Here's where I'm.
Okay, go ahead. Dude.
Here's where I'm landing on it. Like, if this was the Western episode, if we were talking about 3 Westerns here, and this was in the mix, and you asked me if it held up, I would say yes. This holds up as a great Western. You have an unconventional Western in space, but under the space theme, I would say it does not hold up.
That's not the criteria.
That's how I'm going to judge it. And
no. Each movie be judged for what it is. Like that's. I don't want you to skew your like enjoyment of a movie based on the theme we chose. The theme is just a loose thread for picking movies.
That's how I'm
rolling.
rolling.
Don't focus too much on the theme.
No, it does not hold up. Final answer.
Well, you never understand my format, Steve.
It's okay.
All right. Well, let's move on then.
The second stage.
Theater 2. Apollo 13 from 2005, starring Thomas Hanks, a young, relatively obscure, unknown actor. The Pax, Bill Paxton.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin, Canadian Bacon. And Gary Sinise. Lieutenant Dan. This is another Tom Hanks, Gary Sinise joint. Fresh off
another
of,
film where Gary
Gump.
Sinise gets cut off at the knees.
It says 2005, but it's actually 1995 in our little crawl there.
Oh, did I write 2005? My bad. Hold on. I'm going to change that. Did I even say 2005 out loud? Like a fool.
Maybe you did. I can't remember. I just was noticing. I'm like, this was definitely 95.
Yeah. Good catch there. 1995. Yes, I remember seeing it when it came out. I think I may have seen it in theater. But yeah.
What about you, Chris? Had you seen this before?
I did see this before. I don't know if I saw it in theaters or I watched it on my couch with my grandfather. Like he was in his rocking chair, I was on the couch, sort of deal. Yeah, I definitely saw this film before though, because I love space and like I gravitate towards these movies generally all the time. So it was high on my books. At the time it had come out, and I enjoyed it, but I was also like, bit of a snooze fest, documentary style, Ron Howard, and it
true story.
Yeah, true story. The guys, the main cast do really good jobs of like keeping you entertained with their performances, and if it wasn't for that main cast, this movie would not be as good. But in general, when it comes to Ron Howard films, I always find myself a little bland.
Bored.
I find them a little bland. And out of all of Ron Howard's films, this is his best film by far. But there are moments when I'm like, this is a little bland. But I was all right. They weren't intolerable. There were moments I'm like, this is servable. He's definitely, as you said earlier, Dave. I think it was you, Dave, where he just sort of glamorizes the 50s.
Well, Davan said that. Yeah, he's from Happy Days. How can you blame him?
Yeah, exactly. But it feels like that. It feels like Happy Days space movie.
It's a nostalgic movie for the space program of the 60s and for the moon landing and for the what it's been lost, because the movie's also kind of about how budget cuts kind of really killed the space program, and the movie's a lot about that too. And I think that there was in the attempt to kind of get the resurgence into the space program, this movie is kind of a message film in some ways at the time, to sort of bring back that,
I feel like it was a death note to the space program too, in a sense that like this film
Reminded everyone of their failures.
Yes, and they weren't so keen to jump on top of like really expanding more, and it all just sort of cooled down, and now it's become a billionaires game, and it's sort of getting back up there, but we're not.
Well,
going
Remember
in
that
great
time we
direction.
screwed up going to the moon, invest in the space program.
Well, also
But,
that like we see the movie starts on the actual moon landing 69, and then it's like we beat the Russians, so who cares anymore? Like it's over. The fight, the race is over. So and that's what seemed to have happened. Like why spend all this money trying to get to something we've already done? But they I watched that show, The Earth to the Moon. And not the Earth, well that too, but they also that show that Ronald D. Moore does now called For All Mankind, which is about an alternate timeline space program where the Russians get to the moon first, and the space race doesn't end; it keeps going and going and going, and therefore it's an alternate history where the space program is completely different. So watching this movie, I was like, after having watched that show, I was like, oh okay, I understand what the limb is, and this I actually really enjoyed watching this movie after having seen that a couple of years of that show. On I guess it's on Apple TV, that show, but yeah, like I was like, oh okay, like that's how this worked, and why how in our timeline, yeah, like everyone started like space, but getting to the moon is this incredibly hard, difficult, amazing thing to do every time. The fact that these guys even got back alive on this mission was amazing. It took like all of the smart guys. It's showing how science, engineering, know-how is so important, and what was really good about the space program, not just like going to the moon or being the Russians or anything like that. It was sort of about what the amazing things we can achieve, as people.
Required
my favorite things about this movie are like those elements, those science elements, like when they're just like they throw all the pieces of shit on the table. They're like, make them a filter. There's like,
yeah,
right. They bring it up. They're like, here's your filter. They're like, this. They're like, yeah, it works. Like, but my opening thoughts on this movie were it wasn't as good as I remembered. I don't know if that's a bit of the hold up element, maybe, but and it left me wanting almost like there were good performances, but I almost feel like you could definitely change the director and even the main cast and probably make a better version of this movie. But they were two biggest stars. Like I don't like having one big star in a movie is not that distracting, but having like every character that you're supposed to feel grounded in this world of this movie, have them all being big superstars, it starts to feel like Southland tales. It's just famous people thrown in
throwback
everywhere, and it's a bit much. But like in these types of movies, these actors want to be in these movies a lot of the times and that sort of thing. But I don't know. It's
not the one who plays Tom Hanks's wife. I never saw her really in anything else, and she was really good in this movie.
Who else did I live? What's his name? Ed Harris is in this as well.
Ed Harris, he's really good. He's got like a great
good in everything.
He got nominated for an Oscar for this.
He's good.
Lost to Kevin Spacey from Usual Suspects or whatever, but there's some strong films that year. I think that this cat, like really what pulls this movie together for me is the score. The music in this movie is really, really strong under James Horner, who also scored Braveheart in the same year. He was nominated for the Oscar twice and lost twice to some Italian movie or something, in the 95, but he canceled his votes out. But and he also did like the Wrath of Khan score. He's one of my all-time favorite. He did like Titanic later on after this, so like, and he's
can't all be hits.
Well, yeah, he had he had some amazing cinematic contributions to music, right? With music in the films. And this movie, I think, mostly hits you hard. Tom Hanks really strong. Yes, they're all big stars, and you have to sort of like, oh yeah, they're playing these astronaut guys and whatever. And so they're not because coming right off of Forrest Gump, I remember when this movie came out, it was all about like, well, Tom Hanks, Gary Sinise were reunited only after a year after Forrest Gump, right? Mm-hmm. And here they're playing very different characters and a very different dynamic in this film. But I think they were trying to maybe move past Forrest Gump, which was such a huge phenomenal movie phenomenon in its time back in the previous year, which Tom Hanks had won the Oscar for as well. This was like, he was riding high off Philadelphia. Like this was a movie. This was a movie star's movie, and I think Ron Howard, I think, was the big like new thing. And I agree, his style is sort of boring to me. I don't think I would say Ron Howard's movies I would hold up as like the great set of directors' movies, and I agree that this is maybe his best movie of all of them, because it had some real innovation thing, like all the no gravity scenes, which were filmed apparently mostly in airplanes that were just doing like these big dives. They get a few seconds of weightlessness, and they just get a couple shots here, over and over again. Like that's most of that is practical special effects.
Pretty great,
you know.
Yeah, it was a staple blockbuster film of '95. Like I remember all the hype going around because of them talking about how they rode the vomit comet and took those trips to get the short bursts of film. And you can tell they use that sparingly in the film, but it's just enough to make you believe like, oh yeah, these guys are just like hanging on by the seat of their pants in this little container out in space that's like broken.
Right.
And I'll say too, I kind of prefer like Burbs era Tom Hanks. I find Tom Hanks in his later career, he's just like, he's a very good actor, but he's almost like he's always just doing very good acting all the time. Like it's like it feels a little like not grounded sometimes. He's just like, yep, that's Tom Hanks doing some very good acting.
Ron Howard's just like, okay, Tom, just be Tom Hanks. Like, like don't try to be Lovell. Don't be a McMethod here. Don't be like Forrest Gump, like really into the role. Just be Tom Hanks. That's people are coming to see a big tentpole movie this summer. It's Apollo 13, and that's basically what he gives here. Most of these actors give, like, they're not really going super into character for the most part.
But like even Castaway, I can't really get into that guy's plight because it's Tom Hanks the whole time, and it never feels like a guy on an island. It feels like Tom Hanks doing some very good acting. Like, I don't know, there's a disconnect there.
Well, that's the thing. Like all these big movie stars, whether it's Harrison Ford, Tom Cruise, whoever, right? Like after a while, you're just like, well, that's the movie star. I know I'm watching a movie because I'm looking at a movie star.
Yeah.
So unknown actors can sort of, or relatively unknown at least, can sort of give you that. Or if you're Gary Oldman, doesn't matter. He'll always make you believe he'll make you believe he's anybody. So
yeah. Or maybe you won't know, and then later on you'll be like, oh, that was Gary Oldman.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know. I was like, oh, that was Gary Oldman. Okay, that's it. Like that's a true actor, Oh, yeah. There's actors, and then there are movie stars, and sometimes they're the same, but sometimes they're not.
And then you hear a cut, and you hear "Thanks, Gary," and that's when you're revealed you are Gary Oldman.
Right. How many prosthetics he has on.
The director didn't even know that was Gary Oldman.
Let's watch
this movie.
Let's get refreshed on this movie of Apollo 13.
Yep. 13's an unlucky number to name an Apollo after.
Or it's lucky in some people's eyes. You never know.
Yeah.
On the 13th
of the 13th day
of the 13th hour.
Yeah, I already hate this opening.
This trailer's not
Apollo
winning me over either.
Was launched.
No, it really
is. All right. Well, the number 13, I get it.
A million things could have gone wrong.
We see Tom Hanks, we see Kevin Bacon.
The surface of the moon.
On April 13th.
See, like how they're doing this scene, so I don't even know, maybe it's just the filter Murphy put over it, but it's more grainy, and to me that almost makes it a little better.
The movie came out on April 13th.
Houston, we are venting something out into space. It's definitely a gas of some sort.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
It must be the oxygen.
You see what I see?
Flight.
Their heart rates are skyrocketing.
We have a 401 alarm.
That can't be real.
Oh, man, it is fighting me, Jack. What's the story here?
I keep losing radio signal.
That can't happen. It's got to be instrumentation.
And we got some serious time pressure here. We're looking at less than 15 minutes of life support left.
It's like they're all over the place. Damn, we're losing it.
Definitely.
Never lost an American in space. We're sure as hell not going to lose one on my watch.
There we go.
Apollo 13.
It's a better trailer than the Outland trailer.
I mean, give me a movie about an Apollo that doesn't suck. Am I right? Am I right?
Well, I suppose so.
It gets somewhere. No.
I didn't necessarily know the story of Apollo 13 until I saw this movie, because of course I wasn't alive when the original events happened. So, and I of course had heard of the moon landing, but this was sort of an educational film at the time, brought a lot of awareness to it.
My favorite moment in this film was that Jody Simpson Apollo 13 is the only movie directed by Ron Howard that has good pacing. The pacing of his other movies, though, most are good. The pacing is terrible.
Hence the boring moments, and you can feel bored a lot of the time.
Yeah. The one of the moments I enjoyed, I guess I probably should have picked it for my scene that held up, but I think I ended up picking something different. I did. The one that I would have picked was when they were like arguing about something space related, and one of the engineers go, "Well, we didn't plan for this," and I'm like, "Well, I'm sure you guys planned for this now." It's like you probably should have planned for something like this, but hey, I'm sure you're planning for it now. It's just if it gave the whole thing like a bunch of IT nerds were just like, "I think we got this."
Well,
physicists. Oh, there's problems. There's problems. I know physicists and engineers and super smart science people and rocket and stuff. But I'm just trying to make jokes.
I like that one guy though. He's like freaking out so much about like how his engine's not designed to do what they wanted to do, and just like, look, I know, but I'm just telling you.
I'm just telling you. I don't know what will happen.
And eventually, Ed Harris is like, "Look, man, it's not your ass if it doesn't work." Okay, he's just like,
okay.
Well,
well, then in that case, I'll go get a coffee. Yeah.
And it works. He's just like, "See, told you it would work." That guy was awesome.
That was a good little bit that they threw in. Ron Howard's brother, Clint Howard, also in the movie, has a couple of gags in the movie. Longtime Star Trek alumnus, Clint Howard, always playing
star of the Ron Howard film Gentle Ben.
There you go. Yeah, like going way back to original series Star Trek.
Apparently, there's a Ron Howard film called Grand Theft Auto that was written by Ron Howard, directed by Ron Howard, and starring Ron Howard. And Clint Howard has like
I saw Ron Howard's dad in this movie, who
really?
Because he plays John Sheridan's dad in Babylon 5, and I know him from that. Right, like randomly, and I was just like, "That's John Sheridan's dad," but not really. That's Ron Howard's actual dad, And he's just like he's like an extra basically in the movie. He doesn't say anything, but he's always in the background. I say that one thing I didn't care. Like, this movie is very much about the men go off to space and the women stay home and worry, and like that movie. Rewatching it again, I was like, this movie would be done differently now. They would present these female characters differently than they did in this 1995 setting. So progress, but it was just kind of a different tone to it, in that sense. So that was where I was sort of like, what you're saying didn't help, wasn't as good as you remembered it. I think that was maybe part of for me too. But like most of these scenes are easy to watch. They're not like, it's not slow, it's not boring. It moves pretty well, and I was able to follow sort of along with what was happening at a given moment. And no one's snoozing me, really.
Snooze me until Houston, we have a problem, and then it's pretty good.
Yeah. So the film starts off in the Lavelle house. They're all watching the lunar landing of the famous Apollo 11. And we get to this backyard scene where Tom Hanks' character is looking up at the moon. This is actually my favorite scene. I felt it set the tone, and it sort of gives you a reason to I don't know, really get behind Tom Hanks' character, at least for me anyway.
When you were on the far side on 8, I didn't sleep at all. I just vacuumed over and over again.
Christopher Columbus and Charles Lindbergh and Neil Armstrong.
This is back when Christopher Columbus was still celebrated, I suppose.
Look, if Ron Howard made a modern movie, he would probably still celebrate Christopher Columbus, because they did in the 50s. That's the era you want to live in. Like,
it's not a miracle.
Before yet, it will be the 2050s.
We just decided to go.
Sure enough.
Apollo 8, we were so close.
Ron Howard is 100 years old.
Now?
So
What about Bryce Dallas Howard?
I like that line that he says where it's like, we just decided to go to the moon. No other reason. That's why we did it, And
We just decided.
Yeah, we just decided to go. Tom Hanks is playing astronaut Jim Lavelle, and Kathleen Quinn is playing his life, Marilyn Lavelle. Soon we're, sent off to the infamous NASA, rocket space station where they're getting all the rockets put together. We get introduced this whole, I can't even think right now. Sorry. The whole scene where basically budget's telling them, there may not be another mission.
Oh, he's like, I'm slated to be on Apollo 14. He's like, if there's an Apollo 14.
Yeah.
And there was, actually. But I think it ended on 17 or 18.
I believe Kevin Bacon's character goes back up on it. One of them does.
Gary Sinise does. He goes
does.
up. And Kevin Bacon's character dies at the end, of cancer. In real life, too. That happened in real life. The guy who died.
It's back in 1969, in July, basically, where this is all set. While Jim Lavelle is giving a tour to these, you would say financiers or whatever, he gets pulled aside, and they're like, hey, something happened, and he ends up rushing home to tell Marilyn, his wife, that somebody got an ear infection and they can't go up, so he's getting put on as the prime team for Apollo 13, and he's going to get to go to the moon. Which he's thrilled about. He
should have won, but actually, it turns out he should have stayed on Apollo 14 because what happened to Apollo 13 would have happened to anybody who flew that particular ship.
Yeah.
It was a defect in that particular ship, so this was actually
And
terrible
a fuel
for him.
cell or something, right?
He would have made it to the moon if he had actually stayed on 14. But this ends up being.
But I think this also sort of highlights the fact that if there was anyone else commanding 13, there's a good chance they would not have made it back. And that
maybe, yeah. I think that's part of the message of the movie too. Yeah,
sort of shows the power of these three guys. And real specifically also Ken Mattingly's, who you got to feel bad for because he gets pulled off because they're like, "You got measles, Ken." He's like, "I ain't got no measles." It's like, "No, you got measles, Ken. You can't go on. We're switching you out for the rookie hotshot that's gonna give us news and coverage because he's, a playboy." Kevin Bacon's playboy.
And then Paxton gets sick as shit.
Yeah.
He practically got the measles. Like, he was sick as all.
Well, he got sick because he gets the clap from Kevin Bacon's character.
That's not true. He didn't.
No, it is
clap.
true. Actually, it's true. It's true.
That was a joke.
No, it's true. It's not a joke. It's a real fact.
It happened in real life.
Yeah, it happened in real life because of the condom apparatus that they had to keep wearing. He didn't get it from the other character, but he basically got a urinary tract infection because of the condom apparatus that you have to wear when you have to
from Kevin Bacon's real life guy.
Yeah, not the whole getting the clap isn't true, but he did get a urinary tract infection.
So that part, but I thought you said okay, well that's a big distinction.
Hey, either way, his dick hurt at the end of the day, okay?
I knew about his dick hurting, but how the cause is aborted. So I'm just saying.
It hurts when I pee.
Yeah. I also loved how this movie called back to Apollo 1 and how those guys died in the fire, which also I didn't know about until I saw this movie. I know I was only 12 when I saw this, but it was it was a lot. I learned a lot in this movie when it came out. They all died in a fire horribly on Apollo 1 because the door wouldn't open, right? So
many space
and how hard it is to be an astronaut, how difficult and how much pressure and and how you have to be all these things, right? In order to do it, and you still might die.
And just the picture of health, you don't even want to sneeze around the higher ups because they might just take you right off the friggin' mission.
Yep.
Right.
Surgeons, what do you call it? Flight surgeon bullshit is what he said in the scene. I think it was.
Yeah, he pulls Gary Sinise off the mission, and Kevin Bacon gets to replace him.
Gets the call as he's getting his, and that's where Gary Sinise is like, "I ain't getting no measles. I'll never have measles." And you just feel bad for Ken Mattingly's character during that whole scene.
Ken Mattingly.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's that's the character.
That's his name?
Yeah, Gary Sinise' character is Ken Mattingly.
Oh, okay. I thought Ken Mattingly was like a baseball player. Like, Mattingly, I told you to shave those
That's
sideburns.
Don Mattingly.
Don Mattingly, sorry. Forgot. All right, sorry.
So yeah, and then you get cut to the scene where they're all in the training module, and Kevin Bacon's just like, I'm taking it to manual, and Gary Sinise gives him this look. He's like, the hell are you doing? Manual? What? Like
Bill Paxton. That's Bill Paxton.
Yeah, or Bill Paxton. Yeah, Bill Paxton's character. So yeah, basically just having a good old time of trying to figure out the new rookie 3 weeks to launch. As everyone's getting prepared for launch, saying goodbyes, and Marilyn comes by to.
I liked that scene. That was a good scene too, where they were talking across the street here to each other a little bit. Saying goodnight or goodbye before the launch. Hello, babe.
And hello to little Ursula. So as the prime crew for Apollo 13, Jim, along with Fred, Hayes, and Ken and Mattingly, undergo extensive training. However, the mission faces a setback. Ken is replaced with Jack Swaggart due to the concerns about Ken's exposure to the measles. On the day of the launch, the world watches as Apollo 13 successfully departs for the moon, and the crew's enthusiasm is tempered by the realization that the moon missions are no longer captivating the public's interest. So yeah, you get this whole, like, there's not a lot of people watching the launch, and then they do have the whole launch, and, during the journey, they, like, do a little video show and tell, and there's, like, this scene where Buddy's like, yeah, well, they said going to the moon's about as exciting as a trip to Philadelphia or something like that. It's just no drama in it. So,
Right. Well, they could have made this movie about Apollo 11, but they made this movie about Apollo 13 instead, right?
Yeah.
Because
Well,
it is
you gotta have them come back. Yeah, there's way more drama in this story.
That's kind of another theme about this movie too. It's like, well, you wanted drama, did you, people? Here's your drama. It's just like, how was it? Did you look? Everyone was in danger, almost died. You happy now?
You also get to watch people pee in space, because we got that
nice.
scene. We get to watch Tom Hanks sprinkle the stars with his urine. Yeah, and then it's just that whole fun scene where they think they're being filmed, and they're like, should we tell them? They're like, no, we're not gonna. We'll tell them later.
Oh yeah, and they
Which
think
was
they're
a
on
little
TV.
sad. But yeah, this journey's going on. Things are going well. They're about almost to the moon, and they're told to like balance a tank. And that's when, the thing freaks out. They blow up. They lose it. They get a critical oxygen tank failure, jeopardizing the lives of the insurgents.
Clint Howard.
Yeah, Clint Howard there to break the hard truths.
Where he's like, we have to abort. He's like, from my seat right now, we have to abort. And then Harris is like, okay, let's do it.
He just walks up to Ed Harris and he goes, Tranya.
He's like, he tells them basically we have to turn off the fuel valves. If we do that, they can't turn them back on. It's like, it's the only way to, make sure what it is, because they think it's fuel. They don't realize it's oxygen. They don't know what's going on. They don't have a good look. So that's the moment they're like, we just lost the moon. They shut off the fuel valves, doesn't work, and then there's, basically solving one problem at a time. Everyone freaks out, and Ed Harris is like, we're going to deal with this one problem at a time. Ken Mattingly's like half paying attention, not quite. Anyway.
How big in the public zeitgeist in 1995-96 was the phrase, Houston, we have a problem?
Huge.
Like,
For years after that, too.
Years.
And it was always misquoted, apparently. It was
because he doesn't say Houston, we have a problem. It's actually, he says more words than that. Yeah. It's like Spider-Man, how they always get Spider-Man's phrase wrong, and it drives me crazy.
Right.
So yeah, they start to come to realize, they got no fuel. They also don't have enough power to get home, and there begins this whole sort of B plot story where there's this I guess you could say electrician type engineer, and he starts working with Ken Mattingly to like figure out the most direct, short power source they can get under 20 amps or something, so they can have guidance when they get back. Otherwise, it's going to be a real hard landing. So there's that whole like Ken Mattingly actually has a reason to be behind, and these guys are trying to keep things going as they.
He needs to get as many vital systems as he can turned on, while keeping it under 20 amps.
Yeah.
Yeah, the movie I think does a good job of explaining to you what problems they're specifically trying to solve and how they're solving it. Like I think that the science in the movie is you can follow it. It makes sense, and you feel like that pressure that they're trying of the time about to run out. I really liked this young guy who we're seeing here on a lot of the shots. I don't know who played him, but he played like sort of this younger engineer type who's like he has to say to like the big guys, like the guys in charge, like, no, this is the reality. We do not have enough power. We have to fix this now, or it's over. Like what we hope will happen won't be enough, right? Like, it's act now or screwed.
He's like, quit with the Jellicoe, get it done bullshit. We can't get this done.
I'm the proto Jellicoe.
He's like, yeah. There's no getting it done with that. But I love shit like that too. Like I would have watched an hour and a half of just when they pour those pieces of the stuff on the table and the guys have to make the filter, just them fiddling with it and putting that filter together. I would watch that team of engineers try to build a filter out of junk for an hour and a half. That would have been freaking fascinating.
Yeah. So yeah, the film explores the challenges faced by the crew who must conserve power and oxygen while adapting to life in the Lunar Excursion Module, the LEM, which wasn't designed for 3 people. As they drift around the moon and back toward Earth, they encounter further obstacles, including carbon dioxide buildup in the LEM and dangerous course deviation. So yeah, like you'd mentioned, there's the guy that basically like builds like the little box with the plastic and stuff like that. It's like, you guys need to make this, and this need to make this now. And they get a step-by-step instruction over the call.
And that's another, like those guys in the astronauts are really skilled scientists, but they're not necessarily engineers like that. So that's another like stipulation. They have to build something that the astronauts can also build.
Yeah,
They have to just what do they have to work with, and then we have to go.
But they also have to have the skill to be able to do it. Like you can't make something so crazy complicated that these half friggin' frozen astronauts can't put it together.
Right.
And they almost can't. They're like, what happens if we ripped a hole in the bag? Because they did.
Better hope you have another one.
They're like, not great.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, no, that ruins the whole thing, man. They're like, you're screwed.
You got one more, be good with it, right? But yeah, they ended up getting the carbon dioxide thing and slapped together. So news is starting to come back to Earth. Like things are falling apart. You get this funny little scene with Tom Hanks' grandmother, or Jim Lovell's grandmother, or mother, I should say.
Mother, yeah.
Where they're like, just so you know, there was an explosion in space and he didn't get to make it to the moon. And he's like, but TV guide told me he's gonna make it to the moon. And it's like, well, he's not. He might make it back. We don't know. And she just sort of like gives a sly look, and she's like, if you know my Jimmy, they can make a washing machine fly. He'll land it. It's like, all right,
refrigerator or something like that.
Yeah. I like that scene. But yeah, there's like
go back a couple slides there. Yeah. You always know it's one more, 2 more. That you always know it's a Howard with that red hair.
Yes.
You can spot him.
Is that a Howard?
It's got to be.
It's got to be a Howard.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
He looks like Richie Cunningham to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's Ron Howard.
But it is Ron himself.
Ron Howard's cameo.
I think it's like his son or something.
Yeah,
the other guy there, the guy on the left, is really good. He played a very
doctor.
interesting character in Boston Legal.
Yeah, he's the doctor in this movie, and he's kind of like an antagonist almost.
Yeah, because he's the guy that said Ken Mattingly had measles, or he was
right. And then when they take off like their heart monitors, he's like, "What?
They're dying."
Mattingly,
save those sideburns.
That's why he didn't get on the mission. Yeah, didn't save the sideburns.
Medical mutiny. So yeah, all this sort of stuff's going down, and we get these like little news reports. I
like those.
Okay, yeah. Before I get to this scene, yeah, we'll just. I think we might have technically skipped it, but this is what was Dave's favorite scene in the film.
Well, I tell you, I remember this one time. I'm in a Banshee at night in combat conditions, so there's no running lights on the carrier. This is Shangri-La. We were in the Sea of Japan, and my radar had jammed, and my homing signal was gone because somebody in Japan was actually using the same frequency, and so it was leading me away from where I was supposed to be. And I'm looking down at a big black ocean, so I flip on my map light, and then suddenly, zap, everything shorts out right there in my cockpit. All my instruments are gone, my lights are gone, and I can't even tell now what my altitude is. I know I'm running out of fuel, so I'm thinking about ditching the ocean. And I look down there, and then in the darkness, there's this green trail. It's like a long carpet that's just laid out right beneath me, and it was the algae, right? It was that phosphorescent stuff that gets churned up in the wake of a big ship, and it was just leading me home. And now, if my cockpit lights hadn't shorted out, there's no way I'd have ever been able to see that. So, you never know what events are going to transpire to get you home.
Okay, spacecraft commander Jim Lovell, no stranger to him.
Yeah, I really like that scene just because it's mostly for how his wife reacts to that. You know,
gives her hope.
Yeah, it gives her hope because she's really in despair, and it's this like clip. Yeah, he's telling the story from World War II, and and Tom Hanks really does it well. He's like, hey, how you're gonna find your way home, and because they all expect that they're gonna die, in space, and they nearly all did, right? So
yeah, it really emphasized what the mother had said earlier to her too, because she's like, I guess he will, make it home. This isn't his first time flying in the dark, right?
Right, and that he's a great commander. Like that's a big part of the story, and I really like that scene too with like the trumpet, that's in the background, like kind of coming up slowly, like from James Horner's score. It's really when you asked me a scene, I was like, I think it's that. I think that was what I was watching. It was like, oh, this is a good one. I had forgotten about this.
And that he's cool under pressure too.
Yeah.
He's just a cool guy. So basically, the Marilyn Lavelle and the families of the astronaut cope with the uncertainty of the mission back on Earth, while Ken Mattingly works digitally in NASA's simulator to develop a procedure for bringing the crew home safely. With Ken's guidance, the crew manages a crucial burn to adjust their trajectory, which here is, I believe, Davan's favorite scene. That is the one. Yes.
It's the final burn.
This is the re-entry. Oh no! This is. Oh.
Yeah, this is where they have to.
This was crazy.
Sure,
I forgot about this.
This was insane, man. I was like, yes, now this is a movie.
Like the fact they
this is the
survived
part that felt like Star Trek. Like this could have been like Picard trying to get them to a.
Yeah, the music too, like because it's like James Horner did the score for Wrath of Khan, and you almost feel that a little bit.
Oh, I was on the edge of my seat during this scene, and I know how it ends, but even still, because it doesn't look like they're gonna get it. They're bouncing all over the place, man. And he's like,
even when it kicks
it's like, no, you don't. It's not even in your viewfinder. Like, yeah, man. And then the last second, it just comes in for a split second. It goes, pow.
Like it's just.
Oh, it's nuts. But I love this because it shows the precision that all this needs to be done at it. It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah, shut down.
Now they're on a trajectory.
Yeah, wow, love that scene.
Yeah, like that looked difficult.
Right.
Like it took two of them. Like imagine. You're trying to steer this thing, and so is the other guy. Because he's doing pitch and yaw, and you're doing like whatever the other two are. Like,
and these are the best pilots, like on Earth at the time, right? So,
yeah,
crazy. So basically, despite limited power and multiple hurdles, the crew's teamwork and resourcefulness prevail. They managed to reestablish contact with mission control and develop a re-entry plan using the lunar module, whose power they reserved into the command module, basically through all of Ken Mattingly's like due diligence, making sure this turns on and that turns off. Okay, cool. So basically, these guys, as they approach re-entry, there's a moment of tension because they get detached from the rest of the module. It's just them in the capsule, and they finally get a look at like what happened to the ship. I don't have a screen capture of this, unfortunately, but that's then maybe that's about here.
That's how then they realize how lucky they are even to be alive because half the ship is missing.
It was like, whoa, we're missing like a whole panel. Like this is way worse than we thought it was. Like we thought it maybe was like a little leak in a hole or whatever. But yeah, they could have exploded and been not in a good spot. So yeah, there's that whole bit. They realized that the heat shield might have been cracked. So now there's the heat shield's been damaged, and they're not sure if they
might not survive re-entry.
Yeah, will even successfully re-enter. But you get this, it's crazy re-entry theme. Everyone's like, oh no, they're going to be silent for 3 minutes on re-entry. Tensions build. Everybody's watching screens. Everyone thinks they're dead. They're not dead. They landed. They make it back. And the whole film just concludes with like a reflection of the lives of the individuals involved in the mission, including Fred Hayes' unfulfilled mission of Apollo 18, Ken Mattingly's later mission to orbit the moon, and Gene Kranz's retirement, and Jim Lovell's statement that Apollo 13 was his final space mission. The whole thing is just a testament to the film, I guess you could say, is a testament to the resilience and determination of NASA, its astronauts, and the team on the ground. It highlights the extraordinary efforts made to overcome life-threatening challenges in one of the most dramatic missions in space exploration history. And it's a good staple film that really should be watched by everybody. Like, it really, like, there are moments, again, it's October, it's spooky month. There were moments where it's legitimately terrifying to think about like what they're doing, why, like, and how they're trying to just get back by the skin of their teeth. Like, that was a pretty tense film.
And the paranoia that you would feel like at one point, I think it's Kevin Bacon's character, or is it Bill Paxton's character? Just like, no, we're dead, and they're just not telling us. Like, we're screwed. Like,
yeah, it's Kevin.
Like, he thinks the Houston's lying to them, because you would start to think that it's just like, would they tell us if we were facing certain death? Like, yeah, that's a very
they're not telling us how to do the re-entry because they don't know and we're gonna die.
Exactly. Yeah,
and I was like, what happens if they wouldn't even find that out? Like, how would they react? We kind of
crazy,
but you feel the stakes. You always feel the stakes in the movie, right? And that's what they do a good job with. So
all right, well, let's which performance would you hold up, Dave?
I'm gonna say it's Kathleen Quinlan as Lavelle's wife. I think she's maybe one of the best. Even though I think because she's not a movie like as big of a movie star as the rest of this cast. Everyone else in this cast is like, I think Ed Harris was not as well known at the time, maybe, but he got an Oscar nom for this. His career blew up big after this too. So they're all really good too. Like, it's hard to like say Tom Hanks is better than Kevin Bacon for me, or Gary Sinise, or Gary Sinise and Tom Hanks are definitely on a different level in this movie. So I gotta recognize that. I don't know that there's no one that's poor. I wouldn't say that was bringing anything down. So overall, I was like a really strong ensemble group as well.
I'll go with the Pax. Bill Pax. He really looked sick.
Yeah.
And for me, Gary Sinise was a little flat in this one. Actually, I wasn't super big on Gary Sinise's performance.
Oh, really? I think he was all right.
He's fine, serviceable, but not a big standout for me.
See, I was big into Gary Sinise's character because I felt bad that the guy got clipped from the whole mission. He didn't get to go to the moon, but he ended up helping them because if he wasn't on the ground, and he was, if it was anybody else, because he knew that system inside and out, he knew that team inside and out. Like, if he was up there, he wouldn't have had the ability.
They wouldn't have had him on the ground. They wouldn't have been Kevin Bacon wouldn't have done what he did on the ground.
No, it's not even like that. It's like, okay, sure, if he's up there, he might have figured it out, but he wouldn't have had the trial and error or the ability to trial and error because they had such limited power. So him being on the ground allowed him to like go through the repetitions to find the magic combination that now allowed them to save all that power. which hopefully they move forward and use to continue, stuff like that.
The movie presents it as it could only have been Gary Sinise's character on the ground, like because of this unique set of circumstances, they all got to live. But if it had been the original crew, like who knows, right? So
I was a big fan of Gary Sinise's Ken Mattingly character because of that that was a hook enough for me to be like, okay, I'm cool. I like that. I like where it's going with it. So that's my performance that held up.
Aesthetic, fine, looked good. I mean, they put a ton of money. This was a big Hollywood blockbuster. They put all the money into this one. So
yeah, it was
sometimes a little too pretty. I feel like I think some of the scenes, if they had looked a little grittier in space, it might have been better. Like if every time you saw the guys in the spaceship, it looked like Outland. I think I would have enjoyed this movie more.
Yeah, like for me, I think about the '60s stuff, like on the ground with the families and stuff. The daughter mentioning the break of the Beatles.
The daughter was a bit much at times.
I feel like some of that stuff is a little like for me. Like I the stuff in space, I think largely works. Okay for me. I was good with it. The exterior shots, the stuff at Houston. It could have been grittier. It could have been more cigarettes. Could have been like
many cigarettes.
But it could have been more. They could have dialed that up like at least more.
I loved watching the cigarettes. I miss those in movies.
Can we hold on for a sec? The amount of cigarettes that was in Outland was insane.
A lot of cigars.
Cigarettes too.
Like so many cigarettes in Outland. I'm just like, okay. In Apollo 13 on Earth makes sense. They weren't smoking cigarettes in the space capsule, but in Outland, in a pressurized mining facility in Jupiter, they're just like smoking up a storm, and I'm like, that can't be good for many reasons.
But you know what is good?
Movie morsels for Apollo 13 from 1995. In the commentary track, Marilyn Lavelle comments that Tom Hanks exactly portrays Jim Lavelle's mannerisms and style of movement. So he was method acting.
That's another thing I was going to mention about this movie, actually, not to cut you off your morsels, but it feels like Ron Howard sat down with these actual astronauts and just tried to portray their descriptions of it as accurately as possible, but that's not necessarily the best way to make an entertaining movie. I mean, I'm sure it was all very accurate and respectful to the astronauts, but like it could have inserted a little drama that didn't happen.
From what from what I was reading, there was a lot of hands-on from people of NASA and the astronauts.
You can tell.
And there was a scene where like Jim was like, "We didn't argue like that." In like, there's this one scene where like Kevin Bacon and Bill Paxton are arguing, and Jim's like, "We didn't argue like that," and then Ron Howard, he's like, "Well, I can only show sweaty forehead so many times before it gets boring. I need to add a little drama to this." And then buddy's like, "Okay, yeah, sure, go for it." So there was a bit of creative flexibility in these portrayals.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. For it's a movie.
So we'll continue on. So in some scenes where the Earth can be seen from the window of Apollo 13, it is one of the photos taken by Jim Lavelle and Bill Anders on the Apollo 8 mission. The cast and crew flew between 612 parabolic arcs in NASA's KC-135 airplane, nicknamed the Vomit Comet. Each arc produced 20 seconds of weightlessness, and all of these flights were completed in 13 days. The actual KC-135 used NASA serial number N930NA was decommissioned in 1995 after 22 years of service and placed on display 2000 at Ellington Field. Bill Paxton, Tom Hanks, and Kevin Bacon were all very proud of the fact that they weren't sick on the so-called Vomit Comet, the plane used to stimulate zero gravity. The cameramen weren't so lucky. After Swaggart admits having forgotten to file his tax return, Clint Howard, who has had tax problems in real life, improvised a line where he says, "That's no joke, they'll jump on him." It was one of my favorite lines of the film, too.
It's like something a brother throws in.
Yeah. Jim Lovell wore his old Navy captain's uniform in the scene where he greets the astronauts aboard the USS Iwo Jima. When Ron Howard asked Lovell if he'd like to be in the film as the ship's admiral, Lovell agreed, but pointed out, "I retired as a captain I will be."
It's right. Once you go admiral, you go evil. Like, you know, everyone knows that, or at least somewhat, or at least somewhat corrupt. So,
the line that
by the politics.
The line that Jim Lovell asked his crewmates, "Gentlemen, what are your intentions? Mine are to go home," needs some context. While Lovell actually said it seems slightly forced and out of place. This is because when he said it on the mission, they were just coming from the far side of the moon and had a critical engine burn coming up. Since it was Jack Swigert and Fred Hayes' first mission, they were taking pictures instead of preparing for the burn. That's why Lovell said the line, adding, "If we don't get home, you won't be able to have your pictures developed."
That would have been something to leave in the movie. That would have been more interesting.
I wish that line was left in the movie. I do too. According to Ed Harris, his portrayal of Gene Kranz's reaction to the astronaut's survival, almost overcome with emotion, was inspired by a documentary interview of the actual Gene. While describing his feelings as the astronauts made it back, even significantly after the fact, he started to break down. Oh God, I had a hard time to laugh.
Speaking of breaking down.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I'm falling apart here, just like the Apollo 13 mission. Cinematography, Dean Kundry, edited by Daniel P. Hanley and Mike Hill. Music by James Horner. Release date June 30th, 1995, with a runtime of 140 minutes. A budget of $52 million. Who wants to take a guess at the box office?
it was like
300 million.
Yeah, like around there, like 400 million,
355.2 million. So you both weren't too off.
No, we split the difference. Yeah, like that's a big hit. That's bigger than Outland was.
Yep. Much
They had a big movie star in Sean Connery, but it didn't matter.
They didn't have 10 movie stars.
They didn't have 10 movie
like
stars.
Apollo 13.
Oh, that's true.
We had one.
We only have a budget for one in this movie.
Yeah. All right. Well, rewatchability. I mean, I've seen this movie more than once, but it's kind of boring. It's spots, and I don't know that I'll ever look to watch this movie again. I don't know if without this podcast I'd have watched this movie again.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page with you. Like, it's not like I need to see this again. Although I appreciate this movie, and I think it's it was a good movie for its time. I think it's worth seeing at least once. You know, there's nothing wrong with this movie, but it's not like I wouldn't want to be on a desert island with only this island or only this movie for the rest of my life over and over again. Like it's a couple here and there, it's good, and it's one of these like made real stories, true story kind of things, and it's fine. It's good.
I would rewatch this movie if it was an opportunity to show it to the youth and ensure that they've watched it so they know the knowledge. Otherwise, I can't say I'm going to go out of my way to rewatch this for leisure's sake. This is like the second time I've watched this, admittedly, and I haven't felt the urge to watch it since. I remember most of it because it is a significant film with the imagery and the history about it. Like, it's one of those films from back in the 90s that I remember the most. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a mixed bag for rewatchability.
Yeah.
Does it hold up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
but I feel like it should have been better. It holds up, but it could have been so much better. It's so annoying.
Yeah, I'm not giving it like flying colors, but it's fine. It's completely serviceable, and it's a good movie.
Yeah. Just leaves me wanting.
Yeah, it's an incredibly important film. It was just directed by Ron Howard, which makes it a kind of bland film. If this was
acted by Tom Hanks, which makes it kind of a bland film.
I think it could have been I agree with you. Like, there was maybe a better movie that was possible for sure. Like a different director, a different cast, whatever. I
don't think even different cast, same cast, different director.
Yeah,
I think
maybe
a different director might have done it. Like there were some really good shots. There was some like cool cinematic. Like there was some scenes I was like, that's pretty cool. But overall, it was a Ron Howard film in the sense that it was like, it's super well polished and it looks at things with a bit of like nostalgia. There's a nostalgia view of that time era that you get with Ron Howard, and because of that, it's like,
yeah,
it could be better. It could be better.
Well, let's move right along to Theater 3 then, fellas.
Oh boy,
we have Ad Astra from 2019, starring Brad Pitt, Tommy Lee Jones, Ruth Negga, who I enjoy in everything that she's in, and Liv Tyler, directed by James Gray.
Liv Tyler's like
opening thoughts on this one. Okay, yeah, Liv Tyler's just in like flashbacks where you just see her face. I don't think she even says anything.
It took me a while to pick up that it was her. Like I was like, oh, it's Liv Tyler.
I gotta say, like, there's certain actors that can touch a movie and turn it into gold, and others that can touch a movie and turn it to poison. Tommy Lee Jones is in a lot of bad movies, and like that could have been good, and then they just cast Tommy Lee Jones, and it's like, I don't know. I'm not a big on Tommy Lee Jones. He's sort of just the same in everything. He's not likable. Like, I don't know.
I think Brad Pitt was more my issue with this movie. I thought he
was too. He was boring.
Yeah, he was just boring me. I'm like, he's just like this really reserved, calm. He's the only thing with his character is he's like, my heartbeat never goes above 60 or whatever. Yeah, I'm like, I know, I could tell. I would be surprised,
Yeah.
And so
neither was mine.
I'm always about the job. I'm a lone soldier, and you get that sort of with the leaving girlfriend
monologue
stuff.
Like this movie looks amazing. A lot of times, like there's some great scenes, like the falls and like there's some space stuff in it that looks great. But like, I'll predict how much Davan liked that. After it was boring and slow.
Well, Jody, I'll have you know that wasn't my biggest problems with this movie, though both of those things are generally true. My biggest problem with this movie is I was excited about it at first because I'm like, oh my god, this is going to be a movie about like the Drake equation and the Fermi paradox, like where is the alien life, and like that's going to be the deep exploration here. But no, it's just a movie about a guy and his daddy issues.
Yeah,
they decided to put in space, and instead of daddy moving to Chicago because it's the Chicago way, daddy moves to Neptune.
That would have been fitting.
This movie didn't need to be in space at all. Being in space didn't add anything after the first like 20 minutes when they sort of look like, oh, maybe this is how to make a bad Fermi paradox Drake equation movie and make it nothing about those things. Like, I don't know. That's what bothered me about this movie.
Yeah,
it just got worse and worse as it went.
Okay, I guess I was the only one that really liked this film.
You liked it?
Yeah, I liked this.
Oh
film.
wow!
I was having a decent time with it. I mean, some like Brad Pitt's performance wasn't the best. I will admit, but I kind of liked the premise. I liked the setting. I liked the sort of real aspect that it took to like space travel and stuff. Also, the fact I liked how they like basically turned the moon into like a mall, like an airport, and it was all like commodified and stuff like that. I like that sort of exploration of the more probable future. Like it was like we watched one film that was like the man getting its shit together when it comes to space exploration, and then we watched two films about like the most probable outcome of human society if we were to get into space exploration is to commodify and mine resource. Like
that's what Outland showed better.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This movie was silly and like ruins those things because it's like to what they did to go to Neptune to try to like get past this, like I forget what they call it, but it's
they didn't go to Neptune. They were intending to go past Neptune. It's
just
that
exactly.
The crew went crazy, and Tommy Lee Jones went even crazier, and is like, "No, we're gonna keep going." He went all Ahab. But
the entire idea is silly. Like you send a probe for that or a telescope. Like you don't send this crew past Neptune just to go like look through a telescope. You just send the telescope.
It's
like,
because I think it's because it was like some sort of It wasn't a ship that was powered by fuel. It was a ship that was powered with like solar and
Did it have antimatter?
renewable. No, it had like renewable energy, but yeah, it was like antimatter or something like that. So they needed a crew to monitor it as they got out farther. So it was probably A, like to see if there was any technology, and B, to sort of potentially work on antimatter engines too, you know.
Well, we saw that, yeah, like whatever Tommy Lee Jones's ship nearly destroyed all life on Earth because he went off the deep end. Like, this movie's kind of about like, I feel like I've seen this movie somewhere before. I don't know what movie it is, but
it was a better version, whatever.
A better version, like some kind of old samurai story or something. Like where this old like veteran warrior who's the father, you know, is legendary, but there's a dark past. Like, you know, like in Hot Shots Part 2, how they keep making fun of that. Like, you know, it's kind of like my dad was in the war and he did all these things, and, you know, and he keeps chasing that. You know, and that's what this felt like. But Brad Pitt is like 50 something in this movie, and I just like, I don't know if he would, like, I guess I was also, he's so much older than
it's Star Wars. Tommy Lee Jones is Darth Vader, and Brad Pitt is Luke Skywalker. That's where you've seen this movie.
But he's like a boring Luke Skywalker and a boring Darth
Vader. Yeah, exactly. Right. That's why it's not a very entertaining movie.
But my favorite thing about the movie was how it looked. I think the cinematography and the special effects were all really good, strong, and there's a kind of a story here, but you know, like after
the story doesn't match what we see. It's like, what?
He gets that entire crew killed, right? When he's trying on Mars, he gets onto the ship and they accidentally all get killed. And then he's like, well, I guess history will have to judge me on my action. I'm like, oh, if he does survive this, there's no way he's getting away with that. And at the end of the movie, he's just drinking a coffee. And I was like, I guess that none of those, that it didn't matter that they all died. And
nothing in this movie mattered. It was just the writer-director wanted to work out his daddy issues.
And he's able to open up at the end and get back with his wife. That's also like the message of the movie at the end. But like, it was like, I didn't care about that like either. It was just like, because it was hard to, I was having a hard time caring about the Brad Pitt character in general. Like just connecting.
Or the Tommy Lee Jones character or anything really.
I liked like at the end, like in the end of the like Davin's like, you know, what's your favorite scene? I was like, the only scene I kind of liked is when Tommy Jones was like, I always thought your brother and you were stupid and small minded, and I never cared about you. I was like,
is that what you picked as your favorite scene?
And Brad Pitt's just like, I know. It's just like
he's like, I still love you, Dad. He's like all right,
yeah, whatever, you know. It's like this is the
it's like see, you have seen him. He's like, you know, I never loved your mother. It's like one of those drunk dads.
I'm glad I watched these movies in reverse order because this movie made me so depressed about space travel and NASA and that kind of stuff. Whereas Apollo 13 is all like hopeful and triumphant and more Star Trek-y. This is more like dystopian, I guess. And so it was just out there.
That's why I'm here. I'm gonna stop it. Get the two of us back home, maybe.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is home. This is a one-way voyage, my son. You talking about Earth? There was never anything for me there. I never cared about you or your mother or any of your small ideas. For 30 years, I've been breathing this air, eating this food, enduring these hardships. And I never once thought about home.
I know, Dad.
I know, Dad.
That sums up the movie, more or less.
Yeah.
It's like, why did you come all the way out here to get the guy? Like, they.
I don't have a lot more to say about this movie, to be honest. I think I said my piece.
Well, like, who's the one you liked in the middle? Ruth Negga?
Ruth Negga? She's good.
Because her parents were killed by Tommy Lee Jones,
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, okay, so Brad Pitt's like his whole thing is very monotone, and most of the time he's on screen, I really don't give two flying fucks about his character up until the moment he starts acting with other characters that have way more charisma and just like life in them than his character does. Like even the like the commander that's supposed to follow him, but like, well, you know, let's just watch the trailer and we'll break this down a bit, I guess, because we got like well ahead of ourselves.
What are you thinking about?
I do what I do because of my dad.
I go where I want to go.
He was a hero.
None of this
He
is even
gave
in
his
the
life
movie.
for the pursuit of knowledge.
Control, you getting that over?
This was a very amazing scene.
Yeah.
That's what I picked as my favorite scene. The movie got bad after this movie.
Yeah, the opening of the film.
Mm.
It's
She
crazy
was-
out there.
Was she there? No,
Fires
this wasn't in
everywhere,
the movie
plane
either.
crashes. They're calling it the surge.
Major, we have
Yeah, that was
some
the-
highly classified information.
Wife, no.
What can you tell us about the Lima project?
Its objective was to search for advanced extraterrestrial life. The ship disappeared approximately 16 years into the mission.
And the commander was?
He was my father, sir.
This might come as quite a shock to you. Your father was experimenting with a highly classified material that could threaten our entire solar system. All life would be destroyed. We're counting on you to find out what's happening out there.
I worry about you. I love you.
Please begin your psychological evaluation. As best you can, please describe your current mental and emotional state.
I'm feeling good, ready to do my job to the best of my abilities.
I like how he has
I remain
therapy
fully
with
committed
AI.
to the lawful completion of the mission. If necessary, I will destroy the project in its entirety.
That scene was cool.
The Earth puts hopes in him.
Space race, the chase scene on the moon, right?
Now, it's
Rovers.
fake. He's on me.
We have a job to do. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
This trailer is a lie. It's a dirty lie, and I'll tell you why.
I
that
forgot Nova Scotia's own Donald Sutherland was in this movie.
Yeah, well, this movie could have been so much better, but I feel like the director or the editor or the and/or team made this movie way more melancholy, way more boring. Because there's a whole bunch of stuff they showed in that trailer that's not in the final film that would have made this a little more setup. And I think that they chose to focus on Brad Pitt's character as isolation, as loneliness, as sort of introspective, as cold. A lot of the stuff with the wife clearly was cut. You know, only we get like these weird flashes and things in the actual final film. I was like,
I figure they must have cut like 80% of Liv Tyler's stuff. I feel like she got paid to do a lot more.
Yeah,
than was actually.
Yeah, it's almost like the ghost of Liv Tyler is in this movie instead.
Yeah.
You know, it's Donald Sutherland's character. I thought was also sort of too short in the movie. I don't feel like his impact was strong enough. Like they talk about his dad, but it doesn't really
resonate.
Yeah,
He's in like 2 scenes, and
I'm just not feeling it. Like Donald Sutherland even outacts Brad Pitt in it. Not that that's that exceptional, but it's like
well, Donald Sutherland can act a lot of people.
Yeah, he's Nova Scotian.
Yeah, there was ebbs and flow with this movie. It was interesting up until Donald Sutherland left, and then it was kind of boring up until Ruth Negga came in, and then it was interesting again, and then it was kind of boring again after that like whole little soiree because he's having the other thing too. When I was watching him, and he's in the booth with the radio microphone. And I was like, so he went all the way to the other side of Mars to basically send a voice message. Could they not have just sent a voice message from Earth to Mars to wherever? Could they not have just sent a probe to wherever instead of people? But everything in this movie is a plot hole. They needed to find out, and they're like, if he responds or if he doesn't respond, then we're gonna blow it up. It's like okay, but if he does respond, then we've got the thing we want. And we're gonna bring him back. Was like that the whole thing about it, and it's just
That wasn't even the stuff I wasn't even like. That wasn't my hang up. My hang-ups were like that sequence you're right on the moon where they have the chase sequence was kind of cool to look at. But I was like, who are these people? Why are they chasing each other? Why are they fighting? I know it's kind of explained in dialogue, but I just I wasn't invested in it. So therefore it's just like this thing that Brad Pitt has to survive, I guess, in this long journey to get to his dad. It's just one of the many things he has to go through, right?
This film was a year of living dangerously in space.
Could have it needed it didn't
I think
feel
I like
like
this a little better than A Year of Living Dangerously.
it needed more like excitement. It needed a better star. It needed a better, I think, actor in the lead role.
Yeah.
And I like Brad Pitt. Like I usually have he has been really strong in some movies. Not this one. I don't know.
I find Brad Pitt is as good as the role he's given. He can't elevate a role, but if he's given a great role, like in Fight Club, he can do it and nail it. But like, I don't think he brings a lot of extra to like
if his character had a little bit more energy or attitude, but like it's not written like that. It's written like this boring, melancholy man who wants to put you to sleep.
Well,
just looking at sad people for an hour and a half.
In the near future time of both hope and conflict, humanity looks for the stars, for intelligent life and the promise of progress.
That's what hit my scene now.
So yeah, at Astra's in the near future, Major Roy McBride, played by Brad Pitt, learns that mysterious power surges are threatening human life in the solar system. Yeah, you get this open. Basically, he's a space antenna technician, because it just seems like he's working on a space antenna. Things start going weird. There's a big flash. He sees the power surges and he starts jumping down to cut the power off. I don't know exactly if that's helped or not, but it blows him off the tower.
He jumps off.
He jumps off.
It helps everyone below him.
Yeah.
And I'm watching this, and eventually I figured out he had a parachute.
I think that's in all of them, especially if they're working like low atmo
Control,
like that.
McBride.
He basically does a halo jump, which is pretty sick.
Spinning real fast. So
Trying to keep the tumble down.
Tumble's
so don't black out.
Gotta keep my heart rate low. My Asperger's is saving me.
Control, do you
It's a hell of a fall.
It is. Yeah. Like he goes from outer. It's basically a halo drop, right? High altitude, low oxygen.
Reminds me of like the Star Trek when they had to, 2009 one, the JJ, they jump off onto the platform.
And then the red suit gets sucked into the like mining beam.
Right. Now he's just skydiving more conventionally at this point. And,
yeah, because he's got atmosphere to steer, as he's mentioned earlier. He's like, it's the atmosphere's too thin, can't steer.
I think he pulled this parachute too soon.
Way too soon.
Yeah, way too soon. I thought that too. Yeah, he basically, he survives that. It's so emphasized as he's a cold, hard man, and he can't get his heart rate up, even if you were to drop him from a building and he falls to earth. Barely crashes, makes it back alive. They pull him in. That's when Liv Taylor's waiting for him.
Another Star Trek nod, though. It's like they were building a maglev carriage, like in Star Trek Voyager, or like a tether.
Yeah, the tether elevator, like exactly. I think they're trying to build those things currently.
Well, we have no material strong enough to build one currently. It's more pie in the sky at the moment.
So yeah, basically he's informed that these surges originate from the Lima Project, a space mission led by his father, H. Clifford McBride, played by Tommy Lee Jones, sent to search for intelligent life beyond the solar system, but disappeared 16 years ago.
I thought this guy was Fred Armisen, but it's not Fred Armisen.
Yeah,
me too for a second.
But yeah, I thought it was like it would have been a wild casting. So yeah, Roy's tasked with reaching Mars and establishing communication with his father, who might still be alive. And he sort of has to deal with that realization that his father, who's been gone for 16 years, might still be alive. Then Donald Sutherland's introduced to Colonel Pruitt, and he's to help Roy embark on this mission. But, things kind of go awry Aware is that no
Awry?
Awry. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
Awry.
Awry. This actually should have been probably my favorite scene. Now that I think about it, was the scene that holds up is just these guys riding on rover landers, and they're like, "There's pirates on the moon." And then there's just no further explanation. You know, they're like getting shot at with guns and stuff. And I guess I didn't get good screenshots, but
yeah, like I that's why same thing. I think there could have been more to this. Like I was just like, it looked cool.
Yeah, it looked cool. It was really well presented. You know, not since I've watched a well presented moon rover action scene and all this stuff. Yeah, really cool scene. They eventually get out of the chaos with no further explanation about moon pirates, which I wish there was more of that. And then it turns out Prout is basically having a heart attack because everything was too crazy. And before he gets carted off, probably because Donald Sutherland was like, "I'm not acting through all of this movie. Here, take the secret information. You know, if you need to hear about how your father has basically gone rogue. And we're gonna probably nuke him." So he ends up, Roy ends up catching his next flight with this crew, which is played with like, did I catch their names? Oh, I didn't catch the names. Okay. Anyway, there's like Captain Tanner and the other two guys.
There's like there's like the captain who dies, right?
Yeah, he dies pretty quick because they go to respond to this like distress signal, and they're like, "Oh man, what's going on?" And they go, this gave like spooky horror themes. I don't know about you guys, but like I enjoyed this. I'm like, this is kind of on point.
Oh, the ape that they find.
Yeah, well, just like they're like, you know, crawling through the corridors trying to find it. They got their little heartbeat monitors, and yeah, he finds like the babu just like chewing on the captain's face, and you get like that crazy scene where it's like the captain's dead. Like that, I thought that was wild.
I thought we were gonna get to something interesting with that. I was like, maybe the ape went crazy, like Tommy Lee Jones went crazy, but no, not really.
Or Tommy Lee Jones turned into an ape or something. Like my brain was going all over the
sure,
place.
That would have been entertaining.
It was just cheap. It was like everything was just cheap and meaningless in this movie. Nothing tied back to anything else.
Yeah, there was no like, that's cool. There was never an aha moment at all. It was just kind of like, you know.
The movie starts and then it ends.
So yeah, these guys end up, you know, the captain's dead. They end up making it to Mars, but Roy has to, you know, take control of the ship manually because the co-captain apparently doesn't know how to straighten out a ship. So Roy takes control of it, and they like land on Mars. And that's when we get introduced to Ruth Onega's character, who's been living on this colony all of her life. And he gets brought to the Year of Living Dangerously audio room where he makes his radio broadcast to Dad. And they spend a couple days. He reads the government script that they hand him, but it doesn't quite work. And then one day he just decides to give it, you know, the old heartfelt message. And that must have triggered something. They were like, "Hey, you were taking you away from this mission." Either one of two things happened. They're like, he's too emotionally close, which is what they said.
Yes.
And they took him away.
It's the truth.
Or there was a response, and they were like,
no.
You know,
but Tommy Lee Jones, he did get the
Definitely
message,
no.
right? Like Tommy Lee Jones
got the message.
Yeah,
but he
didn't respond.
To his son. He wouldn't give a shit.
Right.
So they were just like, "Yeah, we're just gonna nuke this thing. Screw it." And that's when Ruth
flower room, very pretty.
Yeah, the what are the comfort rooms
like
they were called? Yeah, it was
like
very
Soylent
green. Yeah.
Mm.
She basically reveals that, you know, the nukes they've got ships filled with nukes, and they're gonna go take it out. And she basically gives him, you know, the route to get onto the ship. And I was a little pulled out of the film with this whole scene. I'm like, okay, so she takes him to a river. He proceeds to go underwater with his suit and like hand climb this very convenient cable all the way under to the underside of a rocket that is like minutes from going off. And then we're supposed to believe he's going to scale a ladder in the side of the rocket before it launches off. And
Correct.
he does that.
That's what they want us. That's what they want us to believe. Yes. And then he gets them all killed in the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, and he's like, "Hey guys, I'm just here to infiltrate the ship. I don't mean to be." It's like you've broken seals, and you're like, as we're breaking atmosphere, man. Like, what are you doing? He's like, "I mean, you no harm," and like they're getting the like neutralize them by any means sort of order. And that's when, like, the gunfire happens.
The woman
ship
gets her
launch,
face smashed.
Crashed into the window. Like, that was a pretty cool scene. You know, she goes to shoot him, but the launch and the inertia kills her. And then he gets in a knife fight, but the other guy comes out and he takes a shot and he hits a poisonous gas canister and fills the place with I think it was just an oxygen canister, and he just filled it with too much oxygen, and that's what killed everybody.
And the other guy gets like shot by accident or something, right? Or...
No. So the guy gets into a knife fight. He stabs the dude with the leg. The other guy comes with the gun, shoots the canister, and the air fills up and it poisons everybody.
And he tries to save him with the mask.
He's just dead. And then that's when he's like, "Well, I guess it's up to history to judge me. I didn't mean to do it, but they died by accident."
How did he not get charged after? How was he drinking coffee in that diner at the end? Please tell me. Like,
and then we proceed to get this 79
movie feels like
mission.
an episode of Star Trek Discovery. That's what it feels like.
Not a very good one.
So you get the scene where he's getting a feed injection put into his stomach. I don't know why he just doesn't eat normally. This whole like sort of mental breakdown scene. This was the scene that stood out for me. This is my choice.
Of your moral boundaries, I have total clarity. And I know for certain.
I'm on my way to Neptune. The zero G in the extended duration of the journey is affecting me, both physically and mentally. I'm alone. Something I always believed I preferred. I'm alone.
Gene wanted Hal to come out.
It's wearing on me. I'm alone.
Okay, so the reason why I picked that scene, I felt like it resonated with me. It's just this whole like exasperated exploration of being a person that's alone. You know, he's always just delved himself into work and trying to like proceed forward with whatever his mission is, and it's always made him a person that's alone. And now he's stuck in this very long space journey to basically Neptune, which takes like 80 days, and he's just stuck in zero gravity. There's no gravity simulation. He's just stuck in zero gravity for 80 days, and the mind warp effect that applies to the human psyche. I enjoyed that exploration part of this film. That was a big up for me. So yeah.
I didn't think it like they could have done more. I think
they could have done more. They could have explored it. I guess they were.
Like they mentioned the Fermi paradox. Yeah. They mentioned the Drake equation. They don't explore anything in this other than daddy issues.
Yeah, it's too. It's
like it was marred by daddy issues.
The voiceovers from Brad Pitt, and I don't know. Like, I think we're all feeling the same thing. They're like, why didn't you make a better movie?
Yeah.
So yeah, after being launched, he basically makes it all the way to Neptune, gets onto the Lima project, discovers there's still dead bodies. These bodies have just been like perfectly preserved for 16 years.
Just floating there.
Just floating around, and then there's like this one old-timey song just like playing on loop.
He says that's one thing they bonded over when he was a kid was musicals and movies and stuff, right?
So yeah, Roy, where am I? So yeah, he's setting up the nuke, and that's when Daddy Warbucks comes out to let him know that I never cared about you, as we saw in the scene earlier. This is Dave's favorite scene, and he basically his father explains the power surges are caused by the ship's malfunctioning antimatter power source. And despite his father's pleas, Roy arms the payload and attempts to return with Clifford. However, Clifford, he seems like he's going along with it. He's like, the things we could have done if it was me and you. It's like, well, I guess you should have stayed around and raised your son and then explored. But, you had to go find intelligent life in space. You're so determined. And as they're about to get...
Which he didn't do.
Yeah,
he failed at it. But...
Yeah, he failed at hard. As they're getting back for what, he decides to go, screw it, I'm launching myself in space, and he hits the jets and starts like, getting this sort of cut the rope tug of war cliche. Even though they're not hanging off a cliff, they're in the middle of zero-G space. Let me go, daddy issues. And he lets his daddy go to.
Yeah, the dad had son issues too.
Yeah,
it seemed like.
It's like I'm letting you go get your milk and cigarettes off in the cold, deep, cold grass.
Yeah,
space.
I was just like all that just for him to do that, and then whatever.
And then he,
I know, right? See ya.
Yeah, right. It's
Peace.
What?
A waste.
It was
It's just
like,
a
what
waste.
was the whole point? You should just let the nuke go out there on its own. But
why didn't he just launch a missile? He would have got more done.
Yeah,
Why didn't they just send a
exactly.
probe to Neptune in the first place? This whole movie is so unnecessary.
and if it didn't get unnecessary enough, after having a moment of realization of what's the point, well, the point's human connection and a be back home. If there's no voice, which his dad's like, I need to find the answer. He's like, well, you did find the answer. There's nobody out here. You found that answer. It's just us. So let's go home and figure this out. His dad goes flying off, throws him off trajectory. So he goes back and takes off this panel from the ship, which is covering like a solar panel or something, and then proceeds to just like use the centrifugal force of this thing to launch himself through the rings of Neptune, and he uses the shield to keep himself blocked. And I'm watching this and I'm like,
it seemed a bit far-fetched.
Right.
This seemed a little.
I think that's how that would work at all, sir.
I think that
No,
there's
the momentum of the things hitting your shield would stop you and send you in the other direction.
There was, I think, a lot of ways that it was not plausible. It didn't seem like it was like a 1 in a billion chance you were going to hit the ship,
But at this point, we've jumped the plausibility shark, if you will. He ends up making it back to his ship. He gets inside and he's like, I'm going to use the nuclear explosion to propel me all the way back to Earth. And he does.
Ride that wave, baby.
He rides that fucking nuclear explosion all the way back to Earth.
Valhalla.
All the way back to Earth. No trajectory needed. No course correction. Just
was he unconscious the whole time?
It seems like he was unconscious the whole time. He just.
How long did the trip take?
Apparently, it's like 80 days from
80
Mars to Neptune. It was 80 days. No, from Mars to Neptune, it was 80 days. So you probably got to add another 30 days from Mars to Earth. So
no, Mars to Earth was like 8 hours or something to them. It was like nothing.
Oh, okay. But I mean, that's if they have propulsion. He's
No,
riding the wave.
It was 8 days.
Okay, so 90 days, we'll say. It took him 90 days to get from Neptune back to Earth on the.
How do you live for 90 days
shockwave
without any water, or was his suit giving him stuff or something?
At Astra.
just hibernation, human hibernation. It'll shock you. I feel like they just did the Star Trek timey-wimey, skip a few scenes, get to the.
No, don't you besmirch Star Trek with this movie.
I'm sorry,
Wash your
but
mouth
like
out with soap.
Okay, Star Trek has the inactable ability to be like, all right, go do that thing, and then the next scene they're like, I've done the thing, which should have taken them like 2 weeks. So there's time jumping that happens, and I think they did obviously that with the end bit where he's like,
yeah, but it's assumed Starfleet officers eat up when they're off duty.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. Anyway,
He was asleep for 90 days? Like,
I don't think he was asleep for 90 days. I think he probably like worked it out. I don't know. I think they just skipped that, but they just made it seem like as he was getting to Earth, he was basically passed out and he woke up on re-entry. I don't know. It was it wasn't a well put together ending, and that's what made this film suck.
The ending was like my least favorite part of the movie. I was like, this is your ending. Like, and then he's drinking the coffee.
Yeah, he returns to Earth, realizing that humans are likely the only intelligent life in the universe. This realization fosters a desire to reconnect with his loved ones, offering newfound optimism as he seemingly reconciles with his life and his wife. And he's like, I'm good.
It's a very strong possibility that we're the first ones.
Like, I understood the message of Tommy Lee Jones, who was so obsessed with finding other life in space and not Earth that he couldn't see his own son and family and the tragedy that kind of presents. And there's almost a good something there, and that Brad Pitt's going to be different, and he's going to learn to look back to Earth. But I don't even think he had his father's issues to begin with.
It's like Tommy Lee Jones cares so much about life and finding life, but doesn't care about people's lives.
But Brad Pitt didn't care about any of that
I
stuff.
don't think it was about life. It was about finding intelligent life, which is like, that's a stretch.
So, Brad Pitt was already not his father, so he didn't need to have this journey to figure that out, you know.
So unnecessary.
I don't feel like he's changed by this encounter at all, you know, like so.
Which performance would you hold up? I'm going with Liv Tyler. Fantastic job. Fantastic job, Liv. Undersung. All right, you, Murphy.
Ruth Negga or Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, they're the two best. I was joking.
They had they both had about the same equal amount of screen time. I'm gonna give it to Ruth Negga because it I guess anytime she's on screen, it's just like fire, and she eats it up, and I love her. So
I'll give it to Bridgewater's own Donald Sutherland then. Dave,
it pains me to say it, but I'm gonna say Tommy Lee Jones.
I mean, he sold it. He sold his part. He came in, did his part, sold it well. I felt like he was deranged.
He was like this bastard that was just like, you know.
Yeah, he played Tommy Lee Jones.
He played himself. So
deranged bastard.
He was kind of fitting for the role. So I think like,
yeah,
I was like, all right, yeah, he played the villain well, I guess. So, but not really.
I feel like the writer-director was the villain of this movie. But anyway.
Setting
aesthetic, it looked fine.
It was gorgeous.
That fall scene's pretty crazy.
The fall scene's great. The stuff in space is great. I really appreciate like the backdrop of the final act with like Neptune. I think it looks amazing. It's not a planet we get to see in movies a lot, you know.
And it's dark.
Yeah,
which it should be because it's so far from the sun. Like you can see Neptune, but you can barely see Neptune.
Yeah,
I like that a lot. As soon as that
Me
came
too.
on screen, I pointed that out to Tiffany. I'm like, look, it's dark. They paid attention to that, but they paid so much attention to that, and then like nothing else in this.
Right?
movie.
They were like, "What if we
Because
just
nothing
like
else
you'll be
makes
like
sense.
you'll be looking at the screen going, whoa, you know?" And I guess
Yeah.
if you're watching this in a theater, maybe like that would hit you a little harder. You don't even care that the movie's pointless. But
I got a question. I got a question. During that scene in the Neptune, do you think it would have made the movie better or worse if that scene when he's like looking in the light and you assume it's the sun that he sees, but that light actually turns out to be a ship and it becomes very Deus Ex Machina and it's like the alien ship that they were trying to contact the whole time.
Anything would have made this movie better. Anything.
maybe, yeah, that would have been more of an interesting ending.
It would have been a way more interesting if that was just like the ship's there and then they like pull them on and then they ended it there.
I
liked that
really
ending.
wonder if there was a different ending and they rewrote it to this other thing we got. So I'm really curious if that would come up in the morsels.
Speaking of which, let's do it.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Didn't see that one coming, did you?
Did not.
Got him.
So yeah, movie morsels for Ad Astra 2019. Unlike several contemporary films where CGI is used to depict the spacecraft and the vast space, director James Gray decided to use practical effects like models and props for the spacecraft exterior shots.
Works for Star Trek.
Also, instead of using CGI for planets, he decided to use still images to portray the surface of the planets. The same technique was used in 2001, A Space Odyssey from 1968.
And we didn't talk about that on Apollo 13, but I think those were practical models they were using, right? And like special things, not CGI.
Yeah, there was practical models and images as well.
Just that stuff alone makes a lot of movies better. But because now the computer generated stuff is just so generic to me. But
there's no depth or texture.
It's lifeless.
Yeah.
It's lifeless, and it sucks you out of the movie and destroys your soul. At least it does for me.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not as good. We're the old men, Ace.
Clifford McBride says that he has cataracts and has trouble seeing. Cataracts are one of the projected health problems linked to exposure to solar radiation during an extended period in space. When Roy reviews the top secret message given to him by Colonel Pruitt, the file name is shown as 6EQUJ5. Astronomy fans will immediately recognize this as the character string representing the so-called WOW signal.
I was about to say that.
Heard via radio telescope listening the direction of the constellation Sagittarius in 1977, which was never explained. The real-life WOW signal, which was similar to what might be expected from an intelligent extraterrestrial source, has never been explained and has never been heard again.
It was a blip. It was like a solar flare or something. It was just a little blip.
Yeah. During a 2019 interview on National Public Radio's Morning Edition, director and co-writer James Gray explained that the eerie sound that plays in a loop over the opening shots of the movie was actually an altered and sped up recording of Clifford McBride saying, "I love you, my son," repeatedly. Gray explained, "We wanted it to be almost unconscious. It almost sounds like an ultrasound from an unborn baby. It's very weird."
I wasn't like subliminally affected.
Yeah. The proposed engine used by Roy's craft to reach Neptune is a theoretical electric propulsion engine. This explains how the craft is able to travel to Neptune without the need for fuel, as the fuel is provided by solar arrays. Similar to his character in Space Cowboys 2000, Tommy Lee Jones' character faces his own death as a lone astronaut in outer space.
Space Cowboys would have been a better pick.
Was Donald Sutherland in that too?
I think he
was. Yeah. This is the second major science fiction film to feature the planet Neptune prominently after Event Horizon in 1997.
Oh yeah, Event Horizon.
Also a better movie.
Yep.
After Roy's debriefing, he narrates his father's story as he's seen walking down a corridor decorated with NASA astronaut portraits and biographies. His father, H. Clifford McBride's biography, which lists his birth date as September 25th, 2031, and the Project Lima date as December 28th, 2079, is set alongside other real NASA astronauts, which include Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon, Bruce McCandless II, the first astronaut to fly a manned maneuvering unit, Eileen Collins, the first female shuttle commander, Macy Jemison, Winston Scott, and Scott Kelly.
Mae Jemison was also on Star Trek.
Cinematography by Hoyt van Hoytema, Haytema, edited by John Axelrod, Lee Hahn, and music by Max Richter. Release date September 20th, 2019. Running time of 124 minutes. A budget of $80 to $100 million estimated, with a box office of $135.4 million.
Oh, big money loser.
Not money loser, just enough to cover the cost of.
But none of the marketing.
None of the marketing.
So that was so they lost money on this. This is
they lost a lot of money.
If you adjust for inflation, which is the bigger bomb, Outlander or this, or Outland? Sorry, not Outland.
Outland is definitely the biggest bomb. That only made like $1 million at best, if it did at all.
Yeah, but it made this lost.
Well, no, the budget for this was tops $100 million. This box office was $135.4 million, so it made $35.4 million.
But
that's before marketing,
which is double. So it lost. They both lost. So, but I guess technically this was a smaller failure, depending on how much millions they spent.
Maybe. All right. Well, which performance? No, we did that already.
We did that.
All right. We watchability. No.
Definitely not.
I didn't. No.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, maybe again, like with Outland, if I want to like use it as reference imagery, I might like scan through it to get some shots. But I don't think I'd watch this film again. There was just the ending was so bad.
The whole thing was bad. Does it hold up? No. It is a bad concept to even turn into a movie.
It could have been something if they had had a story
about the Fermi paradox in the Drake equation.
You know what? I think there was a Tom Cruise movie called Oblivion, which I think I wanted to pick, and I think I had conceivably mixed these two. I think they came out at the same time, so I was always confused as to which one was which. Maybe I should have picked that Tom Cruise one. It could have been better than this. I don't know. But I went with this one because I felt like it suited the theme of what we were going with.
It feels more grounded. It doesn't feel like it's a science fiction movie, right? But it feels like it's meant to be a futuristic space movie. These two movies are out of this world.
So are you, Jeff Mader? Iceland? Come on. That's hardly even this planet.
Yeah. It's North Pole.
Yeah. North Pole. So does it hold up, Murphy?
No, sadly it doesn't. I don't pick them all. Not every film I gotta pick on here is gonna be winners. So
Sometimes we do get some stinkers.
Start off season 2 with another bad movie, I guess.
I mean, really, like, this may have been the most boring 3-movie combo of this show yet. They weren't like, they didn't really stand out to me, and the one that was the best one, Apollo 13, is still kind of boring. So
yeah,
I guess that's a good question then, Davan. How would you rank these 3 movies?
It is a good question, but here's our list. There we have an A, a B, and a C tonight.
A, B, and a C.
Yeah. For me, it's Apollo 13, Outland, at Astra.
Same.
Yeah.
It's almost undeniable. It's almost undeniably.
It's almost like by default you have to.
Yeah, I would have to say Apollo 13, Outland, Ad Astra. Like, I was liking Ad Astra, and then the end of it just really ruined the film for me. I was like,
And Outland had a bad ending too, but somehow
Outland
Ad Astra had an even worse ending.
Yeah, it's like Outland was just like, wait, there was no justice served, but it was like an appropriate ending. This one was just like, okay, I mean, there was no purpose. There was no purpose,
I think Outland. I think I could have liked Outland more with some changes if they had, if it was like almost more like if they rebooted Outland almost today, and you somehow got Sean Connery from that time, you got almost the same cast. I think that I would have liked that movie a lot more. But because it's kind of weighed down by its 1981.
Yeah, like Outland, it needs small changes, and it would save the whole story, and it would be great.
Right.
And those small changes are like maybe 1 or 2 things. Ad Astra is just like there's so much setup for no actual explanation, and there's it was the biggest empty space nothing burger of a film that we've watched.
Yeah.
And Apollo 13, like I think we were all like, it was fine. But it could have been so much better in retrospect. We could have got a better movie, So it's almost like disappointment, right? Like it's almost
it's a product of its time. It's very 95. It's very Ron Howard.
Very Ron Howard.
It's very historical drama, biopic type film. There's not much you can. Yeah, it's very. Give us Oscar. We get Oscar. It's like, nah, you get nods.
Yeah.
Hey, did you guys know that we are part of a united federation of podcasts?
Excellent segue, Davan. But a federation, you say?
Yeah, we are. We have X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. We're almost done. 1 episode left to season 5. Then we'll move on to
finale?
X-Men.
Is there actually like a finale to the X-Men cartoon, or is it just
graduation day? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So they
finale /
and they're picking up the new series from there. Yeah.
They don't really end it. It's like a cliffhanger, isn't it? Because that show got canceled during that time, didn't it?
No, they knew. No, they knew that.
Oh, I was meaning to mention.
It's definitely an end of a series episode.
One day, Davan, we should look back at Gargoyles.
Andre and I have been talking about that. That might be in the works.
I watched that recently. That was actually when I got Disney Plus. That was the first thing I binged watch was Gargoyles.
Yeah, I have it on like DVD too. Like the first 2
Jeff
seasons.
Mader says Ron Howard didn't know we are part of a united federation.
He didn't know.
Well, now he does because he's probably watching tonight.
It's the lady in the water.
And my co-host Andre has the Graphic Histories podcast. He has an interview coming up with Stephen E. Gordon. So check that out. Animator, director of things like Lord of the Rings and other things. Bakshi's Lord of the Rings, that is. And there's, of course, Super Mater Brothers. They are brothers.
Yes, we're on. They were on tonight. I wasn't with them, but they were covering Survivor season 45, episode 3.
In fact, there were no Mater Brothers.
We are brothers.
Actually, it was Jeff. Jeff was on tonight. He was back from Iceland, so I was. Jeff, I need you to go on there with Foster tonight to talk Survivor, and we're also covering Big Brother right now.
What about Son of Mater?
Son of Mater, Eamon Mater, is going to be doing another album review on Eamon On Track this Saturday with my wife's uncle, Gary Krakalovich, talking about the dark side of the moon, fitting in with our space theme here, guys, tonight, the Pink Floyd album. And I'll be joining in to, talk about it, although I'm not a Pink Floyd fan, so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, we were all 16 once.
Out there.
And of course, there's trivia debates. I just hosted a spooky one with Jaemeel, Mortis Media, and Jessica Chan, and I'm hosting another spooky one in a couple of days.
So nice, you're doing it twice.
Yep. Well, I love Halloween.
It's the trick
With
and
Will
the treat
Young,
of
Mark
trivial
DeVoe,
debates.
and Yannick Renault. Yannick Renault. That's it.
DeVoe and Renault.
Yeah. And of course, there's the Hellbound podcast with Alex
What about
Blackburn,
Will?
Mike
You
Chan,
forgot Will.
and all our various. No, I said Will.
Yeah, look out for on Live Long and Podcast. That's Monday, talking Star Trek Enterprise, the In a Mirror Darkly, the two-parter, as we continue our Enterprise rewatch. And tomorrow we're going to be talking Lower Decks. Lower Decks, Badgies is back, guys.
Few Badgies more.
Few Badgies more.
One
Get ready.
too many.
Listen, this is either going to be the episode where you guys are going to be proven right, and it turns out the big bad villain is the 3 computer bots, or the 2 computer bots, or I'm going to be proven right, and it's all a swerve. It's all a swerve.
It's all been stupid Badgie. It's all been an army of friggin' Badgies.
Maybe Badgie's been trying to save the day the whole time, and we didn't realize it.
Oh my god. Also, in our science division, we got a debate 9 coming up in a couple days.
Who am I going
gonna
against?
be participating. You're going against Adam.
And who?
And Trekkie Bree.
Trekkie. Do I know
Trek
Trekkie
Culture.
Bree?
From Trek
She's
Culture.
From Trek Culture.
Trek Culture?
Yeah. We got a connection with Trek Culture. She's gonna come in and play games with us, and hopefully.
Oh, I better get organized here. All right. I thought I just had to, take down Adam. But,
No, you're representing the Command Division. Adam's representing the Science Division.
All right.
Trekkie Bree's an outsider.
Representing the
representing
culture
the
division.
Trek Culture.
The Trek Culture division, yeah.
Anyway, that's all of our podcasts. And, well, this is where we have a final take. And my final take on these movies tonight, fellas, is these movies were not about space, but they were about, as Jellicoe would say, getting it done. Now, we have 2 extremes here. We have a man in Outland who felt he got the job done when really his job he just started to make the job necessary by what he did. He's just like, you just created a situation that made your job necessary, buddy. You didn't he didn't get the job done, but he thought he did. Now on the other extreme, Tommy Lee Jones did get the job done, but didn't think he did, so decided, I'm going to keep doing the job forever.
Yeah.
So both of those people aren't great examples of getting the job done. Now, how you get the job done is how they did it in Apollo 13. Life throws you some lemons, you turn it into lemonade. That's how you get the job done. And that's what these movies were about. Get it done.
Take it down one problem at a time. And that problem today is that this episode is over. It was a good time here exploring space with you, Dave Mater. Thank you so much for joining us, as always.
Thank you. Thanks. Always a pleasure to be here.
Davan, thank you for always
See you in season 3.
Being the captain and commander of this little hold up movie podcast. So as always,
thanks for all your work behind the scenes, Murphy.
Yeah,
thank you, Murphy.
I do my best. We're gonna see where it goes from here. So we'll see you guys in the next episode. We'll leave you with some coming attractions, and as always, enjoy the movies.
John Carpenter's The Fog.
It's gonna get spooky on the next episode.
Antonio Bay. Stevie Wayne here, and let me be the first to wish Antonio Bay a happy birthday. We're 100.
Actually, you know what? I haven't watched these movies yet, and I love ghost movies, and I don't want these trailers to ruin these for me.
100 years ago.
I'm ducking out now, fellas.
Later, buddy.
They aren't coming attractions for me.
What is
spoilers?
You haven't seen 13 Ghosts? You must have seen 13 Ghosts.
I haven't seen any of these movies.
I don't know. I don't think I've seen
13
this.
Ghosts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of these.
Oh, man.
All right, I'm out of here.
Well,
Who's on this episode with you?
so next
Michael
episode,
Chan.
yeah, we're getting Michael Chan from the Hellbound
yeah.
podcast. He's gonna come talk spooky ghosts with us. We're gonna be watching The Fog
Between midnight and 1, something evil
and 13 Ghosts and Devil's Backbone.
Oh, Jane. These are all Jane's kind of movies.
The Fog.
Antonio Bay has a curse on it. We're all cursed.
I think space and ghosts are apropos themes for October.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. Who's that?
I think I'll go to Vancouver now.
Go to Vancouver.
Where's the fog now?
Well, it should be right outside my door now.
Oh, there's something different about this fog. Dan, stay away from the door! Someone listen to me!
Get inside and lock your doors.
This is gonna be a good segue for the following episode. It's gonna be about radios.
There's something in the fog.
There's something in the fog. I like the trailer.
I love watching these trailers, then watching the movie, and then watching the trailer to be like,
Yeah.
did they explain, like, just, you know, explain the whole movie in the trailer? Did they
Pretty much. So like,
spoil everything?
you know, by the time the end of this, you'll want to see it because we got you so invested in this story.
From the creator of Halloween, the ultimate experience in terror and suspense. John Carpenter's The Fog, starring Adrian Barbeau, Jamie Lee Curtis, John
Who was
Houseman,
Jamie Lee Curtis?
Janet Leigh as Kathy Williams, and Hal Holbrook as Father Malone.
Wait, is Janet Leigh Jamie Lee Curtis's mother?
I think so, yeah.
Hurt you, it will kill you. Between midnight and 1, it will find you.
Midnight and 1. The
Fog.
I kind of want to see that now.
There are ghosts around us all the time.
I can't believe Davin's never seen this
Don't
movie.
even want to hurt us, but there are exceptions.
Oh, I've seen this movie, 13 Ghosts.
Yeah, this is like one of my all-time favorite ghost movies.
I had forgotten about this movie.
It's actually one of my few, like, I'm not a big horror film fan, so this is one of the few horror films I love, actually.
It's got Shaggy from
Tony Shalhoub and Matthew Lillard.
My lawyer to deliver my last will and testament.
I distinctly remember going to see this in theaters.
Is that Jessica Alba? No. Is that Jessica Alba? No.
I think it's one of the other Jessicas. Biel, isn't it?
Biel, yeah, no. Is it? No.
Actually, it may be neither of them. Actually, I need to look that up.
I know I'm dreaming.
Well, your uncle was quite a collector of many things.
Shannon Elizabeth.
That's who it is.
From Celebrity Big Brother.
And American Pie and stuff.
Yeah. And Jane Silent Bob.
You're wasting your time.
Oh man, I don't know if Davin will like this movie or not.
He will not. This is my prediction.
He probably won't, yeah.
It's a little, I think this is a little too
MTV for him.
Yes.
The CGI is gonna just drive him nuts, probably.
This movie is very a product of its time.
Yeah.
¿Usted cree en fantasmas?
Guillermo del Toro?
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro.
Right, this is like one of his first American movies, wasn't it?
It was not his first American. I think it was one of his like early Spanish films. You know, this is his ghost story. It's called Devil's Backbone. There was one of two trailers I could get. I got this one, which is Spanish, or one that just plays creepy music because they don't use any dialogue. Yeah, starving. Look at how they eat. Coming down.
Algo muerto que parece por momentos vivo aún.
Un granito de fuerza. Un granito de fuerza.
Un sentimiento suspendido en el tiempo.
¿Y el fantasma dónde está?
Ghost has seen.
Llegó con la bomba.
Arrived at the
Como
bomb.
un insecto atrapado en ámbar.
It's Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting little get together.
Is this whole movie in Spanish?
Yeah, I think so. The Devil's Backbone.
Yeah.
El Espinillo del Diablo.
It sounds better in Spanish.